Thulasizwe Simelane, weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane, weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 8 minutes after 6. Today is Tuesday, the 8th of July, 2025. On SAFM 104 to 107. Good morning and welcome to it, the Tuesday edition of The Morning Brief. Come, let us huddle together over the next 3 hours to grapple with, analyze, dissect, and find meaning in the key and consequential news and current affairs developments shaping our world today. Among some of what we will cover today will be this. With international BRICS-related commitments done and dusted, President Cyril Ramaphosa returns to a political and national security firestorm following the explosive allegations made by KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi against the Police Minister Senzo Mchunu and Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detection Shadrack Sibiya. Amid calls for Ramaphosa to act swiftly and decisively, some ghosts from the past are also being reawakened. The former Johannesburg Mayor, Kabelo Kwamanda, now wants whatever examination or probe that is to be done into Mkhwanazi's allegations to go as deep as re-examining Shadrack Sibiya's appointment to his current position and track record and controversies while he was head of the City of Johannesburg's Forensic Investigations Unit. But are there really scorpions under those rocks that Kwamanda wants us to turn over? Are there scorpions under those rocks? We'll pose that question when Kabelo Kwamanda joins us at about 20 past 7 this morning. Back to basics. The Department of Basic Education decides that while new skills and subjects such as coding and robotics are important in the new digital economy, our country's numeracy and literacy crisis in the foundation phase is more pressing. So, plans to introduce coding and robotics as compulsory subjects are shelved for now. Compulsory subjects shelved for now. So important to get the wording right. It's not to shelve everything, but introducing these as compulsory subjects. Those plans are shelved for now. With the introduction of these subjects set to be done gradually, we are told, based on resource availability. So here's the question. Is this a sensible, realistic approach, or one that will disadvantage children in public education in terms of accessing the digital economy as well as the related skills, jobs and other opportunities? We'll get the expert analysis of Professor Mary Metcalf at about 8:45, at about 8:45, so just before we end off the show. And lastly, let me flag this. With a department whose sprawling portfolio of entities and agencies literally moves the economy and has the immense potential to be a force for economic efficiency and growth, or a serious clog on our economy in terms of clogging our economy's arteries. The Transport Minister, Barbara Creecy, has delivered her department's budget vote, making provision for systemic improvements, in a number of these agencies. As I said, it's a sprawling portfolio of agencies that cover passenger and freight rail, air transportation and navigation services, but also an airline, a government-owned airline, and roads, among others. But her headaches are endless. From a sole driver license card printing machine that keeps breaking, causing hundreds of thousands in terms of the unprinted driver license backlogs, to a road accident fund that currently is mired in a serious governance crisis. So we'll unpack all of these issues when Minister Barbara Creecy joins me at about 10 past 8, so in the third hour of the show. Morning Brief team, to your stations please for the takeoff, and Musa at the ready with your hourly and half-hourly news updates. Rob Byrne has your traffic updates. Zaikan is watching all things sport for you. Melissa Buta has your morning brief in brief, and that is coming up in the next few minutes. Dauleng Lechela, always right on the money. She will have all of your updates in terms of business, economics, and market updates. And of course, More Africa Sipho Mantula, Raz, will join us at about 20 to 7 this morning with your Africa update. In terms of you participating in this conversation, I'd love to hear from you on these and any other matters that may be exercising your mind. Give me a call. The number to dial 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. What are we waiting for? Let's get the Tuesday edition of the Morning Brief underway.
We are woven into the same soil that shapes South Africa. Its dreams, its energy, its promise. These guide us. Together, we've built progress hand in hand, from the mines to bustling main streets, from one generation to the next. With communities, government, and partners, every initiative from healthcare to education, youth empowerment to entrepreneurship lights the way forward. Because we don't just mine minerals, we mine possibility and progress with purpose. Together, we're shaping what's next, mining potential, building beyond. Anglo-American.
Champions need motivation above and beyond winning. South Africa, show your love and support for the WAFCON defending champions by Yana. Witness the CAF Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024 from 5 to 26 July 2025 on SABC Plus, S3, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC radio stations. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Feeling lucky? Play Powerball and Powerball Plus for 60 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Tuesday, and you could win big. Play Powerball for an estimated 56 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 4 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Big stories of the day. #The Morning Brief.
All right, let's get this morning's briefing session underway with Melissa Buta's Morning Brief in Brief. Melissa, good morning. I feel like saying, yeah, here we go again. It's happening. It looks like it's finally happening. It's no laughing matter. It has serious consequences for our economy. Tell me about what the storm that's coming our way, the tariff storm that's coming our way from the 1st of August.
Morning, Thulasizwe. So yes, really, really, really bad news coming from the U.S. Starting on August 1st, 2025, the U.S. will impose a 30% tariff on all South African goods, citing trade imbalances. President Donald Trump announced the move in a letter to President Cyril Ramaphosa, claiming the trade relationship is not reciprocal. Trump further warned that any retaliatory tariffs by South Africa would lead to additional U.S. tariffs. Similar measures have been announced against South Korea and Japan. South African exporters are bracing for serious economic consequences.
And then another story that is going to be a major talking point, and I'm hoping that in the coming days we will get into it in some level of detail. Tell me about this investigation. It started some time ago, and it was led by Advocate Thembeka Ngcukaitobi, and it was looking into the practices of the medical aid schemes.
Yes, so a report commissioned by Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi has found that medical aid schemes treat registered healthcare practitioners unfairly, with evidence of racial discrimination. Led by Thembeka Ngcukaitobi, the investigation focused on scheme practices between 2012 and 2019 and found that fraud detection procedures were biased and lacked transparency. The report highlights how Black practitioners were disproportionately accused and penalized based on a risk ratio analysis. It also criticized the use of opaque algorithms and called for reforms and ensure fairness, early warnings, and better practitioner protections. Motsoaledi acknowledged that systematic inequality and called for a unified healthcare system. So I hope, we do follow up on this one.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
An interesting one indeed.
We'll definitely need to get into it in the coming days. Talk to me about what OUTA is saying about this new law that the city of Johannesburg, this bylaw that has has to do with CCTV cameras. It's a bit of a talking point for many residents across the city, isn't it?
Yes. So Alta is going to court to challenge the city of Joburg's new CCTV bylaw, calling it unconstitutional and an overreach of municipal authority. The bylaw, passed in February of this year, requires residents and businesses to register CCTV systems, obtain prior approval, pay fees and share footage with the city. Alta argues it violates rights to privacy, property and due process and lacks proper public constitution. They say it burdens residents, invades privacy, undermines community safety and serves as a revenue scheme rather. Alta wants the bylaw set aside, claiming it won't improve security and exceeds the city's legal powers.
Lastly, Melissa, just recently the Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, Velenkosini Hlabisa, told us that he would be really strict with these disaster relief funds that are being released to various provinces. It seems he's making good on that undertaking.
Yes, so the Cooperative Minister has announced that a 1.2 billion rand in disaster relief funds will be withheld from municipalities in the Eastern Cape, Western Cape and KZN unless they fully account for previously allocated funds. This forms part of a push for greater transparency and accountability in disaster spending. The first 151 million is due in July, but only if municipalities meet reporting requirements. Hlabisa warned of consequences for the misuse of funds, but assured that flood victims will still receive their full support. COGTA is also working with the SA Weather Service to improve early warning systems and disaster readiness as extreme weathers become more frequent in the country.
All right, Melissa, thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta with your morning brief in brief, just helping you complete your picture with other stories that we probably won't get time to get to this morning.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
At 6:20, let's give you a sense of how your weather will be looking on this Tuesday morning. Get this, no impact-based warnings, so that's always a good sign when you see that, coming through from the South African Weather Services. So no impact-based warning, straight to the rest of your weather then. Pretoria will be partly cloudy with a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 19. Johannesburg, partly cloudy, 2 to 18. Mbombela, partly cloudy with drizzle, 11 to 18. Polokwane, cloudy, 5 to 15. Mahikeng, fine, 2 to 17. Bloemfontein will be fine with a minimum of, get this, -3 and a maximum of 15. Kimberley, fine, -3 and a maximum of 17. Uppington will be fine with a minimum of -1 and a maximum of 20. Cape Town will have morning fog patches, otherwise it will be fine, 8 to 18. George will be fine, 5 to 18. Gqeberha, fine, 6 to 20. East London will be fine with a minimum of 8 and a maximum of 21. Durban will be fine with a minimum of 7 and a maximum of 20. Richards Bay, partly cloudy, 10 to 22. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will be fine with a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 19.
This Mandela Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit of Ubuntu, calling on all South Africans to engage, uplift, and do good for one another. Let's share what we have, lend a helping hand, and honor Madiba's legacy through kindness and action. Join SAFM as we bring you powerful conversations, inspiring stories, and voices that drive change all month long. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
After 21 months of brutal conflict between Israel and Hamas, a glimmer of hope, a new glimmer of hope is emerging for a new ceasefire in Gaza. This comes as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu meets U.S. President Donald Trump in Washington amid indirect negotiations continuing in Qatar between Israel and Hamas. The proposed 60-day truce which would be brokered by the United States, aims to secure the release of hostages, a phased Israeli withdrawal, and a surge of humanitarian aid, though some core disputes still threaten to derail progress. So let's speak to Dr. Kingsley Makhubela, risk analyst, former diplomat, and public relations executive. As always, thank you for your time, Dr. Makhubela. I don't know what to make of this. We've been at this point quite a number of times in the last 21 months, and we did have at some point a ceasefire of sorts that lasted a short period of time. But honestly, I don't know what to make about the degree to which this is imminent. What's your reading of it? Are we close to a ceasefire deal based on what we're hearing coming out of Washington between Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. President Donald Trump?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. No, we are actually where we were a few months ago when the Israelis came up with this temporary ceasefire. The Hamas are looking for a permanent ceasefire. And if you look at the 60-day reprieve, the intention here is to ensure that all hostages are released. Once the hostages are released and 60 days later, Israel can resume their attacks on Gaza. I mean, it's quite concerning. Even just before dinner last night, the Israeli Prime Minister was saying Donald Trump is the best solution, stay or leave, referring to Palestinians, that those who want to stay can stay, those who want to leave can leave, and that he's working with the United States to try to find countries that are willing to accept Palestinians. So it comes back to ethnic cleansing, literally to ensure that no Palestinians are left in Gaza. So this is not what the Palestinians are looking for. I mean, the Hamas has looked into the opening of the Gaza crossing that provides lifeline support from Egypt into Gaza. And the Israelis are very resistant to that. If you look at what the Israelis are bringing on the table in terms of this agreement, they are looking to give a reprieve for 60 days to stop attacking. And they are looking to allow the Palestinian Red Cross to distribute food away from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which has been dragged into controversies because of its link with the Israeli authorities. But there's nothing fundamental that would give long-term peace security to the Palestinians.
And in the midst of that, then, what do we make of these indirect talks brokered in Qatar between Israel and Hamas? Are they likely to yield anything outside of what the separate, direct conversations that are happening in Washington?
The discussions in Qatar are almost based on the 60 days peace agreement and to ensure that the Palestinians agree to the release of the hostages. And I think from where the Palestinians are sitting, their only trump card to secure a permanent ceasefire is to keep on holding to the hostages. That's how I think they have in mind. Once they do away with that, they are vulnerable, they are open, they have no bargaining chips with the Israelis. So I don't think the Palestinians would accept this temporary reprieve. It has been part of the big problem. Even Thulasizwe, you will recall, even the Security Council has had the resolution talking about ceasefire, permanent ceasefire. The time was based on a few days, a month ceasefire. It's essentially a reprieve from attack for 60 days while they are releasing the hostages, nothing else.
Yeah. All right. I've got to thank you for your time and crisp analysis as always. That's Dr. Kingsley Makhubela, risk analyst, former diplomat and public relations executive.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, good morning to you. Talk to me. Banyana. I nearly said Bafana. The other one. Banyana. Off to a winning start at the Women's Africa Cup of Nations.
Oh my God, yeah, Tulas, not just a win, man. That's a message. They definitely served Ghana some chakalaka and pap yesterday. So very excited how that went down. And the Banyana coach, Desiree Ellis, is so happy to have secured that result. And it sets the tone, I think, for a Banyana squad that collected 3 points to lead Group C after their hard-fought 2-0 win over Ghana at the Honor Stadium last night.
Defensively, we were really sound. We always know we're going to create chances, and we always say if we can keep a clean sheet, we'll win the game. And today, our whole team played defensively really well, but it was extremely hot out there, and I think the cooling break was welcome. I think we made the changes at the right time as well, and that also really helped to settle down the team. But take nothing away from Ghana, they're still a quality side, because that 15 minutes really could have changed the game if we had to concede there, but we stuck in there and hung around and took a little bit more control and got the result that we wanted.
Well, we also have more women's soccer. Spain, they closed in on a place in the quarterfinals of the Women's Euro 2025, hammering Belgium 6-2 to continue their perfect start, and it's all happening in Switzerland. Now let's go to the neighbouring Zimbabwe, where the Proteas are in action. Interim captain Vian Mulder has revealed that he thought about walking away from Test cricket just days after becoming South Africa's highest individual scorer in a single innings. Mulder's unbeaten 367, and that was from 334 deliveries in the second test against Zimbabwe, surpassed Hashim Amla's 311 that came some 13 years ago against England. Let's hear from Mulder.
I've worked a little bit with Hash over the last couple of years, and he's obviously a Hall of Famer, so truly special firstly to go past his record, but I always feel like a lot of the legends deserve certain accolades, so I'm in no means even close to a legend, so someone like Ash deserves to hold that record. But I guess it was my destiny, and yeah, take it as it comes.
And from Vian Mulder, we go to another legend, Novak Djokovic, relieved to break the curse apparently after playing in front of former rival Roger Federer, as Djokovic battled back to overcome and inspired Alex de Minaur and reached the Wimbledon quarterfinals. Now, the men's record 8-time winner Federer, he was watching from the royal box. Serbia's Djokovic lost an error-strewn opener and had to fight back from 4-1 down in the fourth set to win 1-6, 6-4, 6-4, 6-4, and enduring an uncomfortable 3 hours and 18 minutes on centre court against the Australian 11th seed de Minaur. The 38-year-old Djokovic is now within 3 wins of another piece of history. We'll be back with sports, top of the hour. I am Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, Parliament's Police Portfolio Committee Chairperson Ian Cameron is calling for the establishment of an ad hoc commission to investigate allegations of criminality in the police service. This comes after allegations by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi that Police Minister Senzo Mchunu is affiliated to persons linked to criminal activities. Eastern Cape Judge President Sabi Mbenenge says his relationship with Judge's Secretary Andiswa Mengo was a flirtatious one that did not gravitate to a romantic relationship. Yesterday, the top judge went through exchanges between him and Mengo, documented in electronic communication before the Judicial Conduct Tribunal. And a private burial service for former Deputy President David Mabuza will be held in Barberton, Mpumalanga on Saturday. The official state funeral will take place at Hoërskool Bergvlam in Mbombela. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
We've been waiting for this morning since the start of school holidays. Definitely, noticeably lighter volumes across the Gauteng highway network this morning. Good barometer of what's going on across the rest of the country. If you can extrapolate from what's happening on Gauteng highways, it's a pretty good, sort of understanding point for what's going on. The real standout, I guess, the Mike 1, that's under a bit of pressure from Boyson's, moving up towards Smith Street. That's a bit different than normal, so that would point to something happening around the sort of emerge point from the double-decker as you come up into that Braamfontein area. No major breakdowns around Cliffdale. If you're on your way out of Durban to Pietermaritzburg, always worth knowing that. You can get stuck in the most horrible traffic there without any notice at all. Pietermaritzburg, Ashburton section looking fine as well this morning. Cape Town, a crash on Ottery Road at the M5 highway. Just watch for some delays there. And right in the heart of Goodwood, in amongst all those roadworks, the N7, Jakes Curville Drive, traffic lights down at 4 Trekker Road. That'll start backing up. It already is, in fact, start backing up on all approaches into that big junction. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
For the first update of the morning, let's turn to Ndawling Lichela. And Ndawling, good morning to you. So we start off with bad news on the trade front. A letter coming through last night. Tell me what Donald Trump is saying in that quote-unquote love letter to President Cyril Ramaphosa.
And I was about to say, I don't know if we should call it a love letter or not, but
a no love lost letter.
Must be a love letter. President Trump, of course, announcing that 14 countries will face tariff hikes starting from the 1st of August. The countries include Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, Kazakhstan, and Tunisia, which will face 25% tariffs, with Japan and South Korea exporting cars, electronics, and machinery, Malaysia exporting electronic components, and Kazakhstan exporting crude oil and metal alloys. South Africa and Bosnia facing 30% tariffs, with SA, of course, exporting citrus, cars, and precious metals. Other countries will face even higher tariffs, including Indonesia facing a 32% tariff, Bangladesh and Serbia a 35% tariff, 36% for Cambodia and Thailand, Laos and Myanmar facing the highest tariff of 40%. Now, the new tariff rates are separate from sector-specific duties, and goods transshipped to evade higher tariffs will be subject to those higher tariffs. Meanwhile, Trump has also indicated willingness to adjust tariffs based on bilateral relationships, stating that he is not 100% firm on the August 1st deadline and may consider changes if countries adjust their trade policies.
Yeah, so he keeps on pushing, really, for what he believes will be a good deal for Americans. And that's always been his approach anyway. It's never been hidden. That's part of the strategy. Tell me about Apple and this fine in the EU. What's that about? This is it comparable to what we were talking about a few days ago with Google, or is it on a different path? Yeah.
Yes, it's part of the European Commission's Digital Markets Act. Really, the tech companies have been under fire for the last 2 to 3 years, really facing hefty fines. Apple hitting back this time around. It's taken its dispute with EU regulators to Europe's second highest court, challenging a €500 million fine imposed earlier this year for breaching the Digital Markets Act. The European Commission had ruled that Apple's restriction on app developers, preventing them from directing users to cheaper alternatives outside the App Store, were in violation of the Act. Apple, which had vowed to seek legal redress, filed its appeal on the deadline for doing so. The company argues that the European Commission's decision and fine go beyond what the law requires. Apple claims that the Commission's rules would force it to implement business terms that are confusing for developers and detrimental to users. Now, Apple recently overhauled its App Store rules to comply with the EU's demands, aiming to avoid daily fines of about €50 million. Now, all eyes are on the case, as the outcome could have significant implications for the tech industry and regulation of digital markets in the EU.
All right, just a recap then, Ndawling, of how we closed yesterday and those countries that have already opened, what kind of a tone they are setting for the day.
So Trump's latest tariff announcement sparking concern in markets, Thulas, with U.S. stocks in the red overnight. The losses were led by the Dow Jones, which shed over 0.9%. Coming back home, the JSE closed before the new tariff developments, and so the all-share closed in the green, up 0.2%, boosted by a 0.6% increase in the industrial 25. The rand, however, taking a bit of a beating following Washington's move to slap SA with levies with 30%. It's sitting at 17.79 to the dollar. Lastly, in Asia, markets swinging between gains and losses as investors assessed President Trump's latest tariff threats on 14 of its trading partners.
She's right on the money now. She will be right on the money when she comes back to give you another update at about 7:30. That's Ndawling Lichela there.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, good morning. Let's start with news coming out of Nairobi. Tell me about these latest clashes between protesters and police in that country. The situation is getting serious.
Refreshing morning to us and jump Africa to the link now. Indeed, to us, the situation is getting tense and it is gross human rights violations But given the context to us, yesterday, the 7th of July marks in Kenyan history what they called Sabasaba. Now, Sabasaba Tulas comes from the 1992 call for the multi-party democracy in Kenya. Now, this protest, as we know, Tulas, it has been around police brutality in Kenya, poor governance, and the demand for the hustler William Ruto resignation over alleged corruption and high cost of living. Hence, yesterday we touched on one term that it has been raised by the youth. But the National Human Rights Commission, giving us the numbers, 10 people have died yesterday, 29 people injured. This is very concerning, looking at how William Ruto is seeking the second term in 2027. But the youth of Kenya, they are calling for one term.
Sure. We'll see how that plays out. While we're talking about violence, let's talk about developments out of Liberia, a country with a troubled past. We've come a long way, of course, from the days of Charles Taylor and the transition, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Tell me why the current president is apologizing for violence and the traumas that are associated with it.
Tulas, you will understand that Joseph Boakai, actually since 2024 in May, took another step of initiating what he called the Office of War and Economic Crimes Court, just to deal with what happened in Liberia. But in 2009, there was a Truth and Reconciliation Commission recommendation that spoke about a state apology. Now, 2025, Tulas, over this weekend, Joseph Sleepy Boakai offered a state apology to many people about the civil wars, the two civil wars, by the way, Tulas, that have plunged Liberia into a civil war and many people losing their lives. But there's a context also. He gave this on the anniversary of the 35 years of the memorial of former President Samuel Doe and as well as William Tolbert, who were assassinated both in 1980 and 1990. So you'll understand that context, Tulas. He's opening the chapter on reconciliation in Liberia. It seems George Weah could not dribble and Tulas defend that recommendation as a soccer player, and that's why the Sleepy Joe Boakai is calling for that apology.
You're on a roll this morning, aren't you? Tell me about this decision that has now come out and has been, this is a positive one, right? Very rarely do you talk about France and what they would call Francophone Africa and have something positive to say. But in this case, it is something positive. Tell me about this decision coming out of the National Assembly in Paris.
Tulas, this is interesting, even if it is cold around Gauteng province and across South Africa, but this it makes one feel happy to see the return of the Gigi Ayoko. This is a talking drum that could speak to 30 kilometers between villages, that will send a message. Now, this was taken in 1916 to us by the French, kept in their museum. This is a drum that weighs 530 kilograms and is 3 meters long. So you could understand, Tula, since 2022, they've been this call. But others will say, but communities since 1957, actually, they've been calling for the return of this drum. And only 2022, the government of Alassane Ouattara have been pushing France to say we need to return this cultural artifact. There are so many, Tulas, we can mention more than 27, and also Benin, Senegal has been repatriating some of these cultural artifacts, and they are very important to us. Remember, 2025 is the year of reparation and access to justice.
Yeah, absolutely. Lastly then, Sipho, your historical archives, I don't know, in a way it just reminded me that this is what happens when a government tries to control every aspect of human life, including things that a government has absolutely no business getting involved in. Tell me about what happened on July the 8th, 1949.
And to us, that is very important when you always say love doesn't have a color, love doesn't have boundaries, you know, and marriages are very important because they are bringing two families together. But the apartheid government 76 years ago, passed a law to us that we know it was a prohibition of mixed marriages of 1949, followed by the Population Register Act of 1950. That was divide and rule in terms of separation from bed to kitchen to the house to us, and that's how even on relationships, that's how government came with it. And it was only appealed or repealed, actually, not appealed, repealed in 1985 by that act that came Immorality and the Prohibition of Mixed Marriages Amendment Act that allow the interracial marriages and relationships. We know it very well, Thulas, in the African continent. It has happened before. Our neighbors, Botswana, Seretse Khama. We have seen Kwame Nkrumah also. We have seen many, Thulas, if one can. Toyo Sekwale as well, Thulas. You can mention them, So for me, is that the laws, how they've been passed during apartheid, for our law students, they need to dissect them, unmask them, and look at the current realities in the 21st century about the new laws that can regulate, not even regulate Thulas per se, like you have said, can't regulate morality of love affairs, and marriages. So it's quite difficult how apartheid law put that law.
All right, Sipho, thank you for that. Imagine a government going as far as to determine who you can fall in love with and who you can start a family with. That's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update, ending off on that historical note.
The Eagles of Carthage and the Phoenix both believe they are the queens of North Africa. Who are the real queens of the North? This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the spectacular battle between Tunisia and Algeria this Thursday, 10 July at 6 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
We plan for vacations, retirement, and even tonight's dinner. But do we plan for our health? It's how we protect our family's future. So who are you staying healthy for? And how can you protect their future? Choose Dis-Chem Life, the life cover that helps you live a healthier, more rewarding life with health checks and extra rewards. Visit dischemlife.co.za now. Dis-Chem Life. Choose a better partner for life. Dis-Chem Life is an authorized FSP 50594, underwritten by Guardrisk Life, a licensed life insurer, FSP 76. T's and C's apply.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's coming up to 6:45 on this Tuesday. Let's catch you up on one of the big stories of the week. The Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge took the stand at the Judicial Conduct Tribunal in Sandton, Johannesburg, where he's facing serious allegations of sexual harassment. He is accused of making repeated unwanted advances towards a High Court Secretary Andiswa Mengo between 2021 and 2022. While Mbenenge admits he was interested in a romantic relationship, he firmly denies the most serious allegations, including claims of indecent exposure, which is alleged to have occurred on one occasion when he had invited Mengo into his chambers. Let's speak to Mbegazeli Benjamin, who is a research and advocacy officer at Judges Matter. Good morning to you, Mbegazeli. Thank you for your time. This was highly anticipated, was it not? Let's talk about just the aesthetics of it all. It seemed to me as if he had been waiting, Judge Selby Mbenenge, for this opportunity to speak.
Good morning to us and good morning to the listeners. Yes, it was really highly anticipated, both by the public, but particularly by the judge. He has had these allegations against him for the last 3 years now, or going on 3 years now. And so he had been itching to give his own version of events and sort of counter some of the allegations that had been made publicly. And so that's why even during his testimony, there were parts where he was leading himself, essentially. Yeah. Where his advocate was no longer intervening because he was just getting everything off his chest.
In fact, say a bit more about that, just the tone and style of presentation. They called it putting him on autopilot, as Advocate Skakane called it, that I'm allowing you to be on autopilot. So he's largely leading himself. It's not your typical, let me take you to page, XYZ, and then you ask a question and he answers. It's very different.
Yes, it does seem quite different. The judge does seem to sort of have a version, and he does have sort of a set of facts to counter all of the allegations that have so far been put against him. And so he himself was quite raring to go and answer each and every one of those allegations. And I suppose that's how the autopilot happens. But also, we'll recall Judge Mbenenge himself is a former silk. Yep. And so he's quite experienced in sort of presenting a compelling narrative around a set of facts. And so that also can't be discounted, even though this time he's the client and not the lawyer.
Yeah. And part of what came through, I don't know, please talk to it, Mbegazeli, is, I don't know if I picked it up, a sense of, I don't know, is it grievance against the evidence leader? Did you pick that up?
Yes, I also got that sense because he says that the process was supposed to be inquisitorial, in the sense that the evidence leader is supposed to go out and search for all the evidence, whether it fits one of the parties or another. But essentially, when there are questions to be asked, once there is a suggestion that the evidence leader should consult one or other witness, then it is incumbent upon the evidence leader to find that information. And essentially, the perception I got, at least, was that Judge Mbeneng was quite aggrieved that did not quite happen. It seemed as if the evidence leader was only picked a few of the witnesses and then based the case on that.
So we got started with a bit of background and, broader issues, talking about challenges that he has faced being judge president. Then we started getting towards the nub of the issue. How close are we to getting answers around those text messages, the ones that are admitted and the ones that are disputed, as well as the incidents that he says objectively didn't happen?
Look, I think we're quite deep in it right now. I think we now really in the nub of the issue. And I actually now recall at the Advocate Skakane's opening address, he made a point that this tribunal is focused on the allegations of sexual harassment. It is not in reference to the code of conduct for judges, which has a provision that judges must act honorably in both their private capacities and, of course, in their public roles. And by so doing, he narrowed the scope of the tribunal quite severely on only the issues that deal with the sexual harassment complaint, which is a narrower thing than to when the tribunal was looking at judicial conduct generally. In a way, the focus now is on he said, she said, and less about the conduct of any of the parties, particularly the judge, because you'll recall, this is a judicial conduct tribunal.
But as far as the messages exchanged, the WhatsApp messages and all of those, that flood of emojis, if we can call it that torrent of emojis, there's been some kind of explanation that has come through from the judge, hasn't there?
Yes, he explained it as flirtatious. He says that it was in the context of a flirtatious relationship between them that went on for several months, and he didn't read the emojis in the way that the complainant seems to put them, that they were ways to rebuff him or ways to show that she is not interested. He says, in fact, if you read the emojis within the context of his culture, it does seem that she was entertaining those flirtatious overtures by him, and so it didn't get to the level where she sort of didn't want any of the interactions.
Is it your sense that he's going to be on that stand for quite some time? I don't know. That's the sense that I got, that we could be in for quite a number of days.
Well, look, there's still 4 full days ahead, and we don't quite know where it will lead eventually, because we are only at his direct examination. There's still going to be cross-examination by the evidence leader. There's still going to be questions by the panel, and then there will also be re-examination by the judge's own legal team. And so they might exhaust all of these 4 days and postpone it to a further sitting. But for now, the pace of it does seem to be moving quite rapidly. So I imagine that by the end of this week, we would have covered a lot of ground.
Right, Mbegazeli, I've got to thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing of your expertise and observations, sitting in, of course, and watching it all unfold. Mbegazeli Benjamin is Research and Advocacy Officer at Judges Matter.
SAFM. guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Busy now on Joburg's highways, but largely around some incidents. One is a crash in the wrong spot this time of morning. It's the N3 North at Van Buren. So again, coming out of Alberton and Germiston, really heavy backlogs up that N3 into that Bedfordview area. Ahead of that, there's a breakdown just past Marlborough Drive. So the N3 queuing past Alex in towards Limborough Park, and a broken down taxi right lane, N1 North before Buccleuch. So just a bit of a slowdown as you come through Randburg and Four Ways up in towards that obstruction this morning. Still looking clear if you're leaving Durban. On your way to Pietermaritzburg, no breakdowns at Cliffdale. That's a real relief. If you're getting through there now, it's okay. N2's pretty heavy, queuing up from the M7 through towards Westwood Mall. Fairly normal, I guess, for this time of day through the roadworks. And here's a big one. This will hurt in terms of delays. Right in Cape Town, right in the centre of Goodwood. Jakes Covell Drive and Voortrekker Road. On top of all the roadworks, no traffic lights this morning. And that traffic really starting to backlog, particularly the northbound run from Langa through Epping and into that Goodwood area. Crash on Ottery Road at the M5. Just holding up traffic coming through on Ottery Road, heading through the M5 direction west, if you like, towards Rossmead Avenue. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
30 years ago, a moment united a nation. From Ellis Park to every township and village, we stood together. One people, one dream, one victory. Now, the vibration rises again. From the heart of Mzansi to every corner of the country. The four-time world champions, the mighty Springboks, take on the Azuri in a clash where history meets destiny. This is more than a match. It's a country moment, only on SABC. Celebrate the 30th anniversary of our 1995 Rugby World Cup victory. Watch South Africa versus Italy, Saturday 12 July at 4 p.m. Live on SABC2 and streaming on SABC+. Also available on SABC radio stations at 5 p.m. Download the SABC Plus app now. Switch, stream, no subscription. SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Feeling lucky? Play Powerball and Powerball Plus for 60 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Tuesday, and you could win big. Play Powerball for an estimated 56 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 4 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So if you have a driver's license, you'll know about the administrative schlep of having to renew it every 5 years, especially in recent months, right, with the intermittent functionality of the country's only driver license card printing machine and the resultant printing backlogs that have come through from that. But if proposals by the Department of Transport are carried through, that burden may ease soon or ease somewhat. After years of public pressure and operational challenges, the Department of Transport has confirmed plans to extend the validity period of driving licenses from 5 to 8 years. So let's get the reflections of Wayne Duvenage, who is CEO of the organization Undoing Tax Abuse. Good morning to you, Wayne, and thank you for your time. Many people would say this is sensible. In many countries, the driver's license doesn't expire. So before we get into this proposal to extend the validity, do we know why our driver's license expires every 5 years and we have to go through the schlep of renewing it?
Good morning to you and your listeners. Look, there's no real or valid explanation to have to renew the license every 5 years, because it's not like you undergo test again or your ability to drive is tested again. The only thing they do is test your eyesight. I can assure you, I do not want to drive if you're blind. So it's just a fallacy. And in fact, most countries around the world are at an average of 10 years, some 15, even 20, to just renew the card. And this is, quite frankly, a money-making scheme. And it's sad to see government, one of the explanations when they said they're looking at it because they want to see what the financial implication is to government, which implies that they think that this government department is a for-profit department, when actually government should be thinking with its head and saying what's best for the public, what's best for the country, and it is to extend it to 10, even longer. But they don't think that way, sadly. So it just doesn't make sense.
You know, back in the days, I used to believe that there might be a requirement for you to just show that you still can drive and you still have the skills. But that never happens, really. It's just an eye test, and you pay the fee and you fill out the forms and you do everything and you get a temporary license. Was it meant to include a retesting at some level of some skills?
No, it was never to do that. No, somewhere along the line when they introduced the plastic card, it used to be in your ID book, stamped in there and lived with you for life. They made a decision, let's renew this every 5 years and we can make some money.
So let's talk about this proposal then as it stands. How close are we to seeing it becoming reality? I read that it needs to go to Parliament, and I thought, oh, well, we may be talking about it now, but we may be some way off before it's reality.
Well, they're talking about the end of the year or into the early new year. But from what we can understand, the minister has the powers to enact this quite quickly, as did the previous minister, Dupuy Peters, back in 2013. We didn't even know. She'd passed the Gazette, and it was about to be promulgated. I think it was, actually, and they quickly reversed it because somebody... well, they haven't given us the explanation. Our assumption is that somebody in the driver's license department tapped on the shoulder and said, we're going to lose a lot of money if you do this. Let's rather keep it at 5 years. So it should go quite quickly.
Are there factors that are at play now that precipitate for this to actually happen this time around, given the realities, for instance, around the backlogs of printing driver license cards?
Yeah, look, I mean, the backlog is one of the catalysts to making this decision. And we said in the past that whether we had a backlog or a problematic printer or not, consider the driver's license to be valid for 10 years. We don't know why they've gone to 8 years. I think it's a bit of a compromise, but we did suggest, please, just make it 10. And so, now that this printing machine keeps breaking down, it's a problem, and the tender that's gone out a number of times and cancelled because of the corruption that was taking place there, it's become the catalyst. So, let's get the new machine in anyway, and let's get this extension to 10 years, and let's move on. And civil society, AUTA, will certainly be watching the space closely now, because we weren't around watching this in 2013 when the original decision came in. Yeah. So hopefully she'll make this decision quickly for the right reasons, and we can get on with a more efficient country and government.
Yeah. All right, Wayne, I've got to thank you for your time. That's Wayne Duvenage, who is CEO of the organization Undoing Tax Abuse. And I did say that at about 8:10, I'll be in conversation with Minister Barbara Creecy, and we'll be sure to raise this particular issue. But for now, let's go on over to N. Musa, who's got your latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
In our top stories, calls for establishment of an ad hoc commission to probe Mkhwanazi's allegations and a private burial service for the former deputy president. Good morning. Parliament's Police Portfolio Committee Chairperson Ian Cameron is calling for the establishment of an ad hoc commission to investigate allegations of criminality in the police service. This comes after allegations by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi that Police Minister Senzo Mchunu is affiliated to persons linked to criminal activities. He also accused some senior police officials of being involved in corruption. Cameron says a range of interventions should be implemented, like vetting and lifestyle audits, as well as establishing an ad hoc committee.
The first one is an appointment of some kind of an ad hoc inquiry or commission with a clear timeline to urgently investigate the allegations. And I must emphasize with this the importance of the dockets that were mentioned yesterday by General Mkhwanazi, that those dockets or the processes regarding them should be frozen until an independent inquiry can be done. I think it is a massive risk to just leave them in the system after what we heard.
Meanwhile, President Cyril Ramaphosa says he had no foreknowledge of corruption allegations within the police service made by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner. The president told the media in Rio de Janeiro that he would look at the matter when he's back from the BRICS meeting in Brazil.
What the Police Commissioner of KZN, General Mkhwanazi, said, I was not aware of it, that it was coming. And obviously it is a matter that I will be dealing with when I get home. This is not a matter that we should not give attention to. It is a serious matter. It has to do with the security of our people, but it also has to do with our adherence to the rule of law. The police play a critical role in enhancing the rule of law, the safety of South Africans, and that those who have done wrong should be dealt with, and should be dealt with thoroughly in terms of our constitution and our laws.
The trial of the alleged July 2021 unrest instigator Bonginkosi Kanyile is expected to start in the Durban Regional Court today. Kanyile, who's out on 5,000 rand bail, faces charges including incitement to commit public violence in contravention of the Disaster Management Act. It's alleged Kanyile incited violence when he called for former President Jacob Zuma to be released from jail after he started serving a sentence for contempt of court for failing to appear before the State Capture Commission. The unrest began in KwaZulu-Natal and spread to parts of Gauteng, resulting in widespread looting and destruction of property running into billions of rand. Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge says his relationship with Judge's Secretary Andiswa Mengo was a flirtatious one that did not gravitate to a romantic relationship. Yesterday, the top judge went through exchanges between him and Mengo, documented in electronic communication before the Judicial Conduct Tribunal. While Mbenenge seemingly describes it as chats between two consenting adults, Mengo has previously testified that the alleged advances were unwanted. Mbenenge says he understood the exchanges to be flirtatious.
It must be clear to all and sundry that this relationship never gravitated to a romantic relationship in the true sense. This relationship was a flirtatious relationship with all the levels of flirtation. Some at a low ebb, somewhere somehow it's deep. It borders on being romantic, but at the end of the day, as I indicated to you, counsel, the intention was to have a romantic relationship with the complainant.
A private burial service for former Deputy President David Mabuza will be held in Barberton and Mpumalanga on Saturday. The official state funeral will take place at Hoërskool Bergvlam in Mbombela. President Cyril Ramaphosa declared a mourning period and accorded Mabuza's state funeral Category 2. Mabuza family spokesperson Desmond Mwela.
The funeral will take place in Nelspruit, Bergvlam. That's where the funeral service will take place. And then immediately after the official service, which has been declared by the presidency or the government of the Republic of South Africa, the family will therefore be afforded an opportunity to have their private service as a private service immediately after the official service.
Recapping the top story, Parliament's Police Portfolio Committee Chairperson Ian Cameron is calling for the establishment of an ad hoc commission to investigate allegations of criminality in the police service. It comes after allegations by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi that the Police Minister Senzo Mchunu is affiliated to persons linked to criminal activities. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
Outsurance made it possible for us to travel more with the money that we save. 725. This is really real.
You are the biggest saver we've ever had.
2,794 Rand a month. It was the easiest switch ever. Get real.
How is it that Outsurance provided the solution for you?
918 Rand is what I'm saving.
Incredible. Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headline, Banyana coach Desiree Ellis happy to have secured a positive result to kick off their Women's Africa Cup of Nations title defense. And we'll also bring you action from Zimbabwe. The Proteas interim captain, Vian Mulder, well, he is sitting pretty. Mulder is unbeaten on 367 from 334 deliveries in the second test. Details just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
The backlogs up Joburg's N3 this morning. A crash at Fun Beer, and that's the wrong time, wrong place, isn't it? The N3 coming up from Germiston and Alberton, queuing as you pass Cement Factory, getting up into that Bedford View area. Ahead of that, there's a breakdown just past Marlborough Drive, and that's enough to back traffic from Edenvale. So really from Germiston all the way through to Buccleuch, there's not much of a gap in that traffic today. Broken down taxi N1 north after Rivonia, just holding traffic on the run through to Buccleuch. The N1 getting busy now. Old Joburg Road down to New Road, filling up pretty quickly. And there's a backlog on the mighty Montpellier Highway coming to Pretoria's Eskia and Pathlali Drive again. Durban N2 North under quite a bit of pressure already from the M7 Highway, moving through towards Westwood Mall. There's no traffic lights on the M7 at Chitron in the Rossborough area, so watch for some additional delays there today. And Cape Town, this one's going to hurt a bit in terms of traffic delays. The lights out at the busy Jakes Kerville junction. That's the N7 and 4 tracker right in the heart of Goodwood, in amongst all those roadworks on the southbound side. Those lights are down this morning, so all approaches backlogging, and the N1 inbound busy from around about sort of N1 City through to the Sable Road exit. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 7. We are into the second hour of the Morning Brief here on SAFM. Good morning, folks. It is great to be in your company. I don't know what the weather is like out there, but I must mention that it is freezing cold in studio. If you follow us on the YouTube live channel, that is SAFM Radio, you will know that I hardly ever wear a jacket or anything like that. But even I'm wearing a jacket like I'm Zai Khan, who is renowned for wearing, it's almost like a fashion show. Every time you see Zai, I've heard people here at the SABC talking about that, saying that it's a fashion show in terms of winter fashion whenever you see Zai Khan. But today I am wearing that, and it's because of just how cold it is in the studio. In broadcasting terms, the equipment comes first, doesn't it? So the temperature is determined by what the equipment in studio would prefer. Nevertheless, let's move away from that. Let me tell you what's coming up on the show in this hour. We'll start with talking about the plight of whistleblowers in the wake of the sentencing of the man who killed Sindiso Magaqa, that is Sibusiso Ngengwa, who was, has now been sentenced to 25 years in prison. So it's a sense of justice in as far as that case is concerned, but remembering that there are other accused who will still stand trial, so they've not confessed as this Ngengwa person has done. But, it also highlights that in around the same days, while we're talking about that sentencing, there's also been this killing of the forensic audit head of the city of Ekurhuleni, Mpho Mafole. That happened in the last few days. So it brings again to sharp focus the issue of whistleblowers and whether or not we're making any progress around that particular issue. I'll be talking to Jongizizwe Tlhabati, who is Salga Gauteng chairperson, but also a councillor in the city of Ekurhuleni. That conversation coming up in the next few minutes. And then shortly after that, we'll be talking to Kabelo Kwamanda, former mayor of the city of Johannesburg, who is now coming out to say that whatever investigation is done into the allegations made by Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi must also revisit issues around the appointment of Shadrack Sibiya to the position of Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detection, which, according to Kwamanda, was done irregularly. There were still other processes that Kwamanda says were at play at the time when Sibiya was appointed to his new position. Those processes had to do with his previous, Sibiya's previous position in the city of Johannesburg, where he was head of the forensic investigations unit. So that's just a sample of what we will cover in this hour. But of course, you drive the conversation. We are having the conversations. We are leading the conversations that move us here on SAFM, and conversations that involve you are the conversations that do move us. So give me a call. Let's talk. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. Please send me WhatsApp voice notes. I'll play those out and interact with them. The number to send them to is 061 410 4107. Let's get the second hour of the Tuesday edition of the Morning Brief underway.
Botswana is in high spirits to stop the West Africans. However, the Super Falcons want to illustrate why they are 9-time African champions. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the superb clash between Botswana and Nigeria this Thursday, 10 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and S3. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
I was in another insurance company and I wasn't happy. One of my colleagues was also without insurance and she was happy. My niece is without insurance and she's happy. Then I just decided I wanted that happiness.
What was the real deal they could offer you?
870.
Every month?
Every month.
That's amazing. You're always getting something out.
Yeah.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. What brought you and Outsurance together?
Let me just jump on the call with them. Let me just see what's happening. He asked a lot of things about my vehicle, my sexy vehicle over here.
Ooh.
Yeah. And to my surprise, 718 Rand I ended up saving. And this awesome product called Panic Assist. 24-hour security if we need their help. Thinking I'm a father, I need to look out for my family.
Absolutely. They gave you the real deal.
It literally is the real deal.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube and X at SAFM Radio.
Indeed, we are live on those digital platforms, but also on the airwaves on 104 to 107 nationwide. Let's start this hour with this story. The sentencing of Sibusiso Ngengwa for the brutal 2017 assassination of former ANC Youth League Secretary General Sindiso Makaka has been welcomed by many across the country. This long overdue conviction is a small but critical step toward justice in a country where political assassinations and corruption-related killings of whistleblowers occur with disturbing frequency. In the latest deplorable chapter of this criminality, Ekurhuleni forensic audit head Mpho Mafole was recently gunned down while traveling in his car near Kempton Park in a hit the city's mayor has linked to Mafole's work to investigate a 2 billion rand electricity billing scandal. So let's speak to Jongizizwe Dlabati, who is Salga Gauteng chairperson, who joins me now. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. There are, in a way, parallels to be drawn in the sense that, you know, the person who's now been sentenced for the murder of Sindiso Makaka. Sindiso Makaka had been involved in exposing corruption at a municipal level, and Mpho Mafole was similarly, due to the role that he played in the city, similarly placed as to be able to raise flags around processes. Where does this leave us? The one sense of justice in the Makaka case, but also this deep sense of, you know, something has gone amiss within, you know, whistleblower protection that has been highlighted by the killing of Mpho Mafole.
Thank you very much, Thulasizwe. Good morning to you and good morning to your listeners. Firstly, I must indicate that on behalf of SALGA, we welcome the fact that finally those who assassinated Councillor Makaka, they were arrested and obviously sentenced. We are equally expressing our sincere condolences to the family of Mpho, who was recently assassinated. Of course, for some of the allegations that he was handling sensitive investigation, We view these as barbaric acts, and we view these, as acts that seeks to instill some sort of fear, especially against those who are upholding good governance and helping our local government municipalities to fight against maladministration to the extent of investigating and exposing corruptions and wrongdoing. We are, of course, engaged in a conversation that calls for more protective measures for those who are involved in sensitive investigation, Thulasizwe.
Is there something in the local government ecosystem that means that anyone who raises their voice to flag corruption and malfeasance, for instance, in procurement, places either their career in danger or, career and welfare, but on the extreme end, their own lives? Is it easier to get away with that kind of malfeasance at local government level, knowing that the ability to, mete out retribution is easier at that level?
I must say that, Thulasizwe, that these are remnants of instances we have not experienced, especially in our province, a rife, situation where there is regular killings of officials or whistleblowers or officials who are involved in any sensitive investigation. Be that as it may, one killing is too much. We can't afford it. As I said, it may instill a sense of fear. So it has not been something that we see it as easier. We were taken aback by this one. And I guess it's an exceptional situation that triggers probably a call and a need for us to intensify protective measures. And we want to call upon officials not to be deterred by what has transpired and continue to make sure that they uphold good governance and protect local government supply chain management from being compromised.
But of course, Mr. Dlabati, you're not just a SALGA official, you are also a serving official in the city of Ekurhuleni. Let me ask you specifically then, is there something going on in the city of Ekurhuleni that makes the role of a whistleblower to be particularly perilous? And I ask you this in the context of Mr. Mafole's killing, but also in the context of the recently reported case of another whistleblower, Mandisa Posa, who also suffered severe consequences for raising the red flags around, issues to do with the program to keep Ekurhuleni clean. So are you raising your voice enough as an official within the Ekurhuleni Metro to say this is no way of doing things? We ought to be doing more to protect those who insist on good governance?
Certainly, we are raising our voice. The executive mayor has expressed himself on our behalf to condemn this, and he has written to the National Commissioner on the killing of our official. Personally, as a person who presides over the finances of the city of Ekurhuleni, I have also toned up in the fact that we do not want any malfeasance. We must fight against corruption, maladministration, to the extent that everyone who is involved is taken for accountability. So we are hoping that the justice system is going to assist us in this regard. Equally, at a leadership level, in ensuring that we protect our professionals and officials who are really working very hard to protect our supply chain management from being compromised, manipulated. We are engaged in a discussion on how better can we provide protections really to those who are closely working on issues of supply chain management. But as I said, we don't want officials to be deterred by this. We will make sure that we protect them by all means.
How difficult does it make the job of recruiting people for skills such as internal audit within your own municipality in Ekurhuleni, but broadly across Gauteng? What's been your experience in terms of the risk factor that people now associate with those professions?
Yeah, we have not had really challenges in drawing in, professionals. We've drawn in, key skills, in particular from Auditor General and other reputable companies. Of course, the killing of Ms. Dempo, as I said, it has taken us aback, and it will instill some sense of fear to say that, joining in such sensitive professionals where there are forensic investigation, your life is at risk. And for that matter, we are having a conversation, as I said, on how best can we protect those that are involved in those sensitive cases.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Thulasizwe Simelane, who is Salga Gauteng chairperson.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
No challenge is bigger than a willing nation. There is undoubtedly a solution for every problem. Get in touch with Lifeline South Africa on a variety of critical matters that affect our nation, such as mental and emotional health, gender-based violence, HIV and AIDS, and HIV testing services. For assistance, contact Lifeline Trauma and Crisis Line on 0861 322 322. Stop Gender Violence free call or WhatsApp number 0800 150 150. AIDS helpline toll-free number is 0800 012 322 or WhatsApp on 084 922 8808. Lifeline South Africa, mental and emotional health for all. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Let's return to one of the major talking points of this week. The recent exchange of allegations between KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi and the police's top brass, including the Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detection, Shadrack Sibiya, is reopening some old wounds among some. Former Johannesburg Mayor and now ordinary City Councillor Kabelo Gwamanda has issued a public statement in his personal capacity to raise serious concerns about Sibiya's appointment to his current position, alleging it happened against the backdrop of misuse of state resources and politically motivated abuse of law enforcement institutions. Kabelo Gwamanda joins me now to take that conversation forward. Before we get into the essence of what you want to be probed and relooked, Councillor Gwamanda, let me just ask you, why so much padding in your statement? First saying that it's issued in your personal capacity, not on behalf of Al Jamaa, and then talking about people involved in courts, trying to gag you as a party, etc. Why so much padding? Why not come out and say what you want to say and say it officially as a councillor of Al Jamaa?
Good morning, Mr. Simelane, and good morning to your listeners as well. I think it was important for me to indicate, because currently, as it sits, Mr. Sibiya had undertaken to litigate against the political party at a time when we were raising serious issues about his appointment into a senior position in the city of Johannesburg. The process that was undertaken, the vetting process in particular, whereby he did not have the clearance to occupy that particular role at the time. This matter was even investigated by the public protector, and a report came out with the remedial actions that were required to be undertaken. It was in that regard that we were taken to court, and there was a judgment against the political party that said that we are prohibited from speaking about Mr. Sibiya's appointment into the seat. So I had to make it clear that as a council and as a person that was pursuing this particular matter at the time, it is my responsibility to raise this issue and inquire about whether it was taken into account in the new role that he was appointed to.
Why is this worth revisiting? As you know, it has been subject of investigations, as you say. I saw that there was a report by the attorney firm Chiki Zebediela. Attorneys, but that was taken to the High Court and it was basically set aside. So why are we back in this conversation when the report that was the basis of your discomfort has been set aside by a High Court?
As you would know, the crux of the matter in relation to that particular appointment was the subsequent activities that this particular unit, which he is the pioneer of, which is called Group Forensic and Investigation Services in the city of Johannesburg, was embarking on. There was a commission that was established by the Speaker's office in the city of Johannesburg to investigate the procurement of certain equipment and the procurement of the use of information acquired from the use of that particular equipment. Unfortunately, the Speaker that was just ousted had issued an instruction to the city manager to halt that particular process. It was important because these are state funds that were being used. Amongst others, this unit was investigating councillors, and it's not within their scope to do so. So there was a lot of clandestine activities that were taking place there, which makes it even worse is that I, in my personal capacity again, had undertaken to open a case against the mayor at the time and the speaker for the concealment of information. That matter was investigated by the Hawks. It's been 3 years now. Nothing has come to it. And we had cited the concern that as councillors in the city of Johannesburg, we are not safe as long as this particular unit is not fully investigated, the equipment fully looked into, and a report and those that are responsible held to account.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Councillor Kabelo Kwamanda, who is a public representative in the city of Johannesburg.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you. Did you hear what I was telling the people? It's a good thing you are not in studio. Good thing you're not in studio, Zai. If I'm wearing a jacket, I don't know what you would be doing right now.
This I have to see. We want you to post it to us. I mean, you know what? It's a fashion miracle. You in a jacket.
I heard people saying in the corridors that you should watch her every day. She comes in wearing a different nice jacket. Doesn't matter what the weather is. That's you. That's your reputation. Anyway, what's leading in your bulletin this morning?
Okay, I'm going to tell you this much, that while you are sitting there in the cold, Banyana, they brought the heat in Morocco. Unbelievable, but yes, it's happening. They've opened their campaign with a 2-0 win over Ghana, and Coach Desiree Ellis is obviously saying that this is the kind of stance they need to maintain to help navigate their physical teams, especially a team like Ghana.
In 2022, we played Ghana as well. We were physical. In 2016, we played Cameroon, we were physical. So we always going to get that as well. We know what our strengths are. So we're never going to be muscling people around, but if we can move the ball around quicker and our movement of the ball.
Now, Marumo Gallant's boss, Abram Sello, has poured cold water on suggestions that the club could be struggling financially. Now, Gallants, they unveiled their new head coach, Alexandra Lafitte, in Johannesburg, replacing Abdusalam Audu, who left at the end of last season.
Marumo Gallants has never had financial difficulties. We have always been stable. We don't overcommit, we don't undercommit. We do up to our level as the club. We're not competing with any club financially in whatever way. Please let it be respected. We commit up to our level. To our players as well, individually we've spoken very well. We committed what we're supposed to do. And none of any of our players has ever said he has never been paid into our club.
Now, cricket, South Africa's captain Vian Mulder says he respected Brian Lara, who convinced him to declare 33 runs short of the former West Indies star's World Test record against Zimbabwe at the Queen's Sports Club yesterday. Now, Mulder, of course, doing the damage. He hammered an unbeaten 367, a South African record and the fifth highest score in Test cricket. South Africa's total of 626 for 5 proved way beyond Zimbabwe's reach. They were bowled out for 170 and were 51 for 1 in their second innings. Yes, here from Vian Mulder.
I think in the first point of it all, we have to keep the main thing, and that is winning the Test match. I felt like we were in a good position to do that, and I didn't have to bat any longer. And also, I think respecting the game is really important. Letting someone like Brian Lara keep his record. He's one of the greatest to ever play the game, so he deserves that. And yeah, I think we're still in a great position to win the game, and that's all that matters.
And that's a wrap of the Morning Brief Sport. There'll be more top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, President Cyril Ramaphosa has reiterated his view that there should never be vengeance and retribution against BRICS countries, which he says are not competing with any power, but only seek the development of humanity as a whole. He was reacting to President Donald Trump's announcement that the US will impose an additional 10% tariff on any countries aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of the BRICS group. Parliament's Police Portfolio Committee Chairperson Ian Cameron is calling for the establishment of an ad hoc commission to investigate allegations of criminality in the police service. And a 19-year-old initiate has died in the Sekhukhune district in Limpopo. According to the Traditional Affairs Department, the epileptic initiate was taken to hospital after experiencing health complications. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Just an update on that collision north of Messina. A truck, a bus and a vehicle involved early hours this morning. They just managed to open a lane. So between Beitbridge and Messina, there's quite a heavy backlog of traffic to work through and be processed through that scene. Joburg crash, N3 North, just past Marlborough Drive. Big delays coming up from Germiston through Bedfordview. Galoody's, Edenvale passing Alex, the N3. Super heavy backlogs this morning. The Mike 1 Boysons through to Parktown is looking quite slow. And the N14 queuing up again in towards the Bruckfontein interchange. That's the Krugersdorp Highway that is under pressure on your way to Pretoria. The N4, Emiletheni Highway coming into Pretoria between Vartamay Street and the N1. Expect to queue up on that run through this morning. Durban, fairly gentle traffic conditions with the main exception of the N2 North. Just opposite Westwood Mall into the roadworks is quite a heavy backlog as you come up from the M7 Highway. The M7 going into Pinetown is easing up. That's despite the fact that Stapleton Road remains closed. And a bit of pressure on the Esplanade as you come off the M4. There are some roadworks there as you enter Durban. CBD Cape Town, here's the big one. No traffic lights right in the heart of Goodwood. Jakes Curville Drive and Voortrekker Road. And of course, that's a major construction zone on the southbound side as well. So all sorts of pressure around that Goodwood Junction. And an earlier crash on Ottery Road still causing delays westbound from Ottery in towards the M5 highway. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again in Dowling. Let's start with news out of the mining sector. Tell me about South 32 and the decisions that they've taken around their nickel operations.
So Australian mining giant, South 32, which is listed on the JSE, divesting from its nickel operations and citing declining nickel prices due to oversupply and trade tensions, which have resulted in a 13% price drop over the past year. The company will focus on metals like aluminium, copper and zinc, with copper expected to see a 40% surge in demand by 2040, driven by EVs, solar panels and data centers. Now, as part of this strategic shift, South 32 is selling its Matoso nickel operation in Colombia to Core Exa Holdings for up to $100 million. The group says this decision reflects the challenging market conditions for nickel and South 32's efforts to optimize its portfolio towards higher margin businesses critical to the energy transition. Now, the sale will result in an impairment expense of about $130 million for South 32. Now, South 32 not the only miner ditching nickel. Other major mining groups, including Anglo American, also making similar moves, indicating somewhat of a broader industry trend.
And then tell me about Glencore and this launch of a share buyback scheme. Yes. What's that about?
So the diversified miner set to launch a share buyback program over the next 7 months worth $1 billion. And this is in an attempt to reduce its capital and offset the decline in its share price. The buyback, managed by UBS, would involve purchasing shares and holding them in treasury. This move comes after Glencore concluded the merger of Viterra and Bunge Global SA, resulting in a $900 million cash injection and a 32.8 million share intake in Bunge. Now, Glencore views the stake as surplus capital, which will underpin the buyback program, representing less than 40% of the share's market value at the time of the merger. The decision to buy back shares is likely a response to the significant decline in Glencore's market value over the past year, amid concerns about lower commodity prices. Now, the company's market value has shed over 500 billion rands in the past year, with coal prices slumping nearly 20% due to trade and policy uncertainty, as well as increased investment in renewable energy. In April, Glencore narrowed its full-year coal production guidance, reflecting concerns about the outlook for thermal coal prices. The share buyback program aims to return value to shareholders and demonstrate Glencore's confidence in its financial position.
With what we've said and any other news that we've covered in the last hour, how are the markets looking at this hour?
Kicking things off in Asia, markets taking a turn for the better, somewhat shrugging off the latest trade policy announcements. Those markets mainly in the green this hour. The Hong Kong Hang Seng leading those gains, up 0.75%. And then over in Wall Street, futures mostly in positive territory. Investors on that front assessing tariff announcements while awaiting the Fed minutes out later this week. Coming back home, sentiment was positive yesterday as the JSE closed before President Trump made the tariff announcement, slapping SA with duties worth 30%. The all-share gained 0.2% in yesterday's session. The rand, however, being caught up in the latest trade policy moves, trading on the back foot this morning. It's at 17.80 to the greenback.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauling Lichela. She'll be back with one more update for you just before the resumption of trade on the JSE for this Tuesday.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Twiga Stars want to impress the Tanzanians with maximum points, while Banyana won nothing but a win as a reminder that they are the continental champions. This is the Group C clash of the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the glittering clash between Tanzania and South Africa on Friday 11 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and S3. Also available on SABC radio stations at 9 p.m. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
All right, let's go straight to your calls and I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes in just a moment. But let me start with Prophet OJ in Mahikeng. Good morning to you, Prophet OJ. Please go ahead. You want to talk to me about the SAPS?
Yes, Thulas. You said I should not greet. You have to focus with the other guy.
Listen, Prophet OJ, I try as much as I can to crack the whip and be the chief whip. But as I said, I accept that this is Africa. We greet each other. Please go ahead.
Okay, my darling. You see, for us to defeat corruption, I think we now need to change our strategy. There is no way that the rumors could be set about a police minister being involved. A person who's involved here is Simelane, not the minister. Why do I say this? The person who might have committed this criminal activity, if investigation at the end of the day point at Simelane, it is him, not the office, because every time we say the Minister of Police, it's like we are degrading the what you call the status of our offices. You know, let us investigate the person as an individual. If that person happened to be in a position, we'll remove that person from that position. But what that person does should not affect the position, because the minister is a position.
But wait, Prophet OJ, isn't part of the element, and we must emphasize that, you know, these are allegations. No. I'm just doing what I need to do. These are allegations at this stage made by General Mkhwanazi, not tested yet in terms of a proper investigation. But back to the point. Isn't part of the shock of an allegation such as this one, doesn't it reside in the fact that it involves a person who holds that office? So one way or another, that office is implicated in that. If these allegations turn out to be true, the office would have been instrumental in whatever wrongdoing would have been committed. I don't know if you follow. They're inseparable.
What I'm trying to drive home here is that even if, say, Satan is arrested, the office will not be arrested. It will remain. Will appoint another minister. So what I'm saying is that people need to be very careful that evil acts are committed by people, not offices.
Okay.
And another thing to us, Mkhwanazi is an adult and he's been in the police for a long time. I don't think he can just wake up in the morning and break these allegations. Where there is smoke, there is fire.
All right. Prophet OJ, thank you for that this morning. And I think a lot of people have said that Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi surely must have taken all the consequences into the bargain before going out and making the statements he was making in public. It was all thought through, one would imagine. Bramoro in Mangaung, good morning to you. You want to talk about the national dialogue?
Yes, please. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. You know, the DA should put their grievances aside and help the country, help us to build South Africa. Currently, the country deserves a total reset. If we are to even factor in Minister Sezemkono, the allegations against him, for now, we can classify it as allegation. We are waiting for his side of the story.
Yes.
The National Dialogue Program, honestly, would have been the perfect platform to reset everything in the country, from the security cluster to the various government departmental agencies. But we cannot do so without the inclusive of all the political parties, because they play a pivotal role in making the perfect decision that the country deserves. With this said, the president should please cut short his trip. During COVID-19, he was constantly giving us frequent updates. The current situation that we are witnessing in the country, the hardship, even the weather conditions, everything, the portals deserves at least a State of the Nation address from the number one commander, the number one gentleman of the land.
All right,
Thank
Bramoro,
you.
let's see if he will do that. The president returning, of course, from BRICS, where he was attending that summit of the BRICS bloc of nations. and he said he will attend to these matters as soon as he's back in the country. Bonagele, good morning in Cape Town. You also want to weigh in on the national dialogue process?
Yes, Thulas. Good morning. Yeah, absolutely, yes. Look, I'm really concerned and worried about those who criticize this national dialogue. So is this national dialogue not going to talk about things such as the change of constitution and the way that the way that we're voting, things such as those?
Yeah.
So all in all, but for people who doesn't want to participate, such as DA and those who criticize the national dialogue, do they have the interest of changes in this country for better, if I may ask?
Yeah.
Because for now, everybody is complaining the government is not doing what people are expecting. And therefore, but with regard to the money that is going to be, that was mentioned, is going to be spent, I'm totally against that. I don't think it requires a lot of money, so to speak. Yeah. But for everyone, if you are unhappy with the government, what the government is doing right now, we need to participate and encourage those who are going to discuss as to what is the way forward.
Gotcha.
You understand?
Gotcha.
Thank
you for that. That's Bonagele in Cape Town. An interesting take on the national dialogue. According to Bonagele, needed, but maybe not at that level of the mooted budget. Important again to say that the presidency has rejected that and says it was something that was an estimate, but it's not an official budget, an estimate by the foundations that are involved in the preparatory work for the national dialogue. Janusz, good morning to you. You want to talk about economic transformation?
Yes, good morning to us. Before I will come to our country, let's go to China. And maybe remember that Mao Zedong and dark time for the China, many millions of people were murdered because the Mao Zedong decided to they killed all the intelligence, all the people with the knowledge. Now the change in China really went to the transformation. They allow the private sector to come in, bring the technology, and we know how is the China now. In our country, we had the dark time during the apartheid. Yes. But now, even though the time where we had proper railway, the proper infrastructure, then became of course, Mandela time, a lot of optimistic thinking, but didn't happen much. Then we got Mbeki time. We remember him about his aides and his Petrus minister and establishment of BEE. We remember about Zuma, Gupta's Zuma Imperium. Now we've got Ramaphosa and many of the commissions. We remember him about Zonta Commission. We remember him about his promise about, building the big city. I would call it Moon Fontaine City. I don't know where it's going to be, maybe in the moon. And we've got now with this the discussion, another commission is coming into the national, improvement.
So are you saying we're not learning from China in terms of learning from our past and then being decisive in carving a path forward?
That's my point. Right. And even if that's all this BE, if you want to have the private sector, for instance, coming in, yes, 48% belong to you, other 30% belong to the 30% belong to mafia, industrial mafia, then the rest going to the political establishment.
Gotcha.
So it's not rosy in our country.
All right, Janusz, thank you for that. Janusz in Cape Town there. Lastly, let me take Khotso in Maluti Apofung. Goeiemôre Khotso, hoe gaan dit?
Thulas.
Yes.
Let me salute Nhlanhla Mkhonazi. It's always the man that I respect. But in Nhlanhla Mkhonazi, he made a big mistake. Nhlanhla Mkhonazi, he discovered the criminal within SAPS, so-called Libya. Why he don't kill him? Because he's supposed to kill Libya because he discovered that this man is a criminal.
Wait, Khotso, wait. Say that slowly for me. What's that about killing? Please say it again.
Yeah. He discovered the criminal within the SAPS and occupying a high position.
Yes.
He's supposed to kill Libya before he can go to the press conference. Because in this country, we are suffering and we are struggling because of the corrupt police who are affiliated with the ANC. Remember, the ANC is terrorist organization that is sponsored by the ANC and SAPS and IEC.
Khotso, so let me. Yeah. Okay, finish what you're saying.
And he made the mistake that was committed by Zuma when Zuma was a president. We want Zuma that man so-called Paul O'Sullivan is a typical syndicate, a crime that who needs to be removed in our country because it's a foreigner who are going to terrorize our country.
All right, Khotso.
Then he says down the line, Zuma he come back, then he wants to deal decisively with Paul O'Sullivan.
All right, got you. Khotso, thank you for that. I do need to urge caution on one or two things though, Khotso. One, the call for Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi to, now that he's identified, in your words, Shadrack Sibiya as a criminal, to then kill him is totally irresponsible. That's not how we deal with criminality in this country. The use of force, including deadly force, is carefully regulated by the laws of the country, in the main, the Criminal Procedure Act. And yes, there's been a number of incidents, especially in KwaZulu-Natal, where suspects have been killed, but there are processes around that, making sure that this was one of those instances where the law allows the use of deadly force. And if there's anything untoward, we would then have reason to worry. But it can't be route one that you identify a criminal, kill him. That's just not how it works. And also, it's also when a person is resisting arrest, for example. So I think that's enough said about that. I don't think I need to belabor that point. As to the other allegations you've said before, and you say it again about the ANC, you calling it a terrorist organization, I'm not going to wade in on that. A lot of people reacted and responded to you in the past. Lastly, Shadrack Sibiya, I don't know if you can say, I don't know if we are any clearer as to his political affiliations, right? Because remember, in the city of Joburg, he was appointed by the DA leadership at the time to head up that in forensic investigation unit in the city of Joburg. Was it DA? Yeah, it was Herman Mashaba, 2016, followed through by Mayor Mpho Phalatse. So I don't know if we can read anything into his political affiliation and whether it actually features in this particular conversation. Thank you for that. We'll come back to your calls a bit later on.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Update on that fatal crash scene, a truck, a bus and a vehicle involved between Musina and Beitbridge. Still quite heavy backlogs both directions. If you are that side, might be a good idea to just delay travel, go a little bit later. Also just looking at some queues north of Polokwane as well on the N1 heading north into a separate incident. That side, Joburg's N3 remains heavily back this morning from, Heldnace interchange in Germiston all the way through to a crash just after Marlborough Drive. There are no gaps in that N3. Traffic is about as heavy as it gets. Collision on the R21 approaching the airport this morning. Crash by Ford Trekker Road on the southbound track. And just before you get there, the roadworks at Tembisa just starting to slow things up. N14 towards Pretoria, the Krugersdorp Highway. You're going to be asked to queue into the Brockfontein interchange area this morning. That's quite heavy as well. Durban, the N2 running north is heavy from the M7 right the way almost towards Umgeni Road. Victoria Embankment coming off the M4 into Durban. That remains slow. And Cape Town, a crash on the N2 outbound in front of Khayelitsha by Spine Road, pushing a queue, heavy queue, back through to Mew Way, and traffic light issues this morning. Jake Scoville Drive and Ford Trekker Road. Expect some delays in the heart of Goodwood. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Spar brings you super savings. Get 1.5 litre Coca-Cola Original only. Buy 2 for 32 Rand, plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Or 145 gram Doritos corn chips. Buy any 2 for 36 Rand and save 12 Rand. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million Rand in instant cash. Price is valid until 21 July 2025. While stocks last, T's and C's apply.
30 years ago, a moment united a nation. From Ellis Park to every township and village, we stood together. One people, one dream, one victory. Now, the vibration rises again. From the heart of Mzansi to every corner of the country. The 4-time world champions, the mighty Springboks, take on the Azuri in a clash where history meets destiny. This is more than a match. It's a country moment. Only on SABC. Celebrate the 30th anniversary of our 1995 Rugby World Cup victory. Watch South Africa versus Italy. Saturday, 12 July at 4 p.m. Live on SABC2 and streaming on SABC+. Also available on SABC radio stations at 5 p.m. Download the SABC Plus app now. Switch, stream, no subscription. SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
So, Taryn, you've just graduated cum laude, but nothing says you're a genius quite like selling your car to We Buy Cars.
Absolutely. My car was an 18th birthday present, and it's time to move on to something a bit more mature.
So, where did you hear about We Buy Cars?
All of my friends are using We Buy Cars. I would have had legit FOMO if I hadn't used them. And it was so quick. I did it on my laptop while sending around my CV.
Smart move, Taryn. Graduated and upgraded. We Buy Cars. Geared for success. Geared for you.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Let me take one or two voice notes and then go back to the calls.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. This is GS Muspacing. Thulasizwe, it is apparently alleged that Sibusiso Magaga's killer wanted to sing before he goes down, and the prosecution didn't give him a chance. Could you kindly please find out as to what is it that he wanted to sing before he got sentenced? Thank you, GS Muspacing.
GS Muspacing, thank you for that. Well, my understanding of how these things work implies that he would have sung, to use your word. You reveal everything in that plea bargaining agreement. You have to take the court into your confidence, admit your role to its full extent. So he did sing. I did see that statement. I'll look it up and I'll see if I can share it again. But I did see that statement. So he did sing. He did name people that he said were involved. So it's now up to the prosecution and investigators to follow through on what came out from his statement, including in the prosecution of the remaining suspects.
Thulas, what shameful code of conduct from the Eastern Cape Judge. It is shameful, it's disgusting. Such an old man to act in that way. Shameful.
Yeah. All right. No, thank you for sharing that. He did say in the early part of his testimony that he is, there's a sense of shame about having to reveal what were private conversations, intimate conversations. But he maintains that this was, a consensual, flirtatious relationship. It didn't fully develop into a romantic relationship, but it was flirtatious between himself. Let's see where the testimony goes today and in the remaining days, including when he has to answer questions from the evidence leader, among others, a bit later on. Kabelo in Malutia Pofung, good morning to you.
Oh, good morning to Thulasizwe and the listeners. Firstly, I think one of the caller called and spoke very ill about the ANC, that is a terrorist organization. That must be corrected. It is not quite right for callers to just call and backmark the ANC as such. My issue is about Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. I think, Thulasizwe, we need to decide the kind of state or of South Africa or of democracy we want to be in South Africa. Do we want a lawless country, or we want a state that is governed by the rule of law? In saying that, I simply mean Mkhwanazi has crossed the line, has crossed his line of duty, and has also not adhered to his code of conduct, ethics, and discipline, because what he mentioned there are issues which were not supposed even to be spread on the public platform, but protocol should have been followed in addressing such matters. You can't, Thulasizwe, go and speak ill about your manager. You can't even about your superior. There are protocol that must be
follows.
Because of time, let me leave it there. I don't have time to engage you, but thank you for raising that point. Let's see what other people say and where they take that particular point raised by Kabelo out in Malutia Pofung. Let's go straight to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
In our top stories, President Ramaphosa warns against targeting BRICS countries and Ian Cameron proposes action over Mkwanazi's allegations. Good morning. President Cyril Ramaphosa has reiterated his view that there should never be vengeance and retribution against BRIC countries, which he says are not competing with any power, but only seek the development of humanity as a whole. He was reacting to President Donald Trump's announcement that the US will impose an additional 10% tariff on any countries aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of the BRICS group. Ramaphosa addressed the media at the end of a summit in Brazil.
It is really disappointing that when there is such a very positive collective manifestation such as BRICS, there should be others who see it in negative light and want to punish those who participate in this. It cannot be and should not be. We should be respecting the sovereignty of countries. We should be respecting that we are all equal. It cannot be that might should now be right, where in the end those who are more powerful are the ones who seek to have vengeance against those who are seeking to do good in the world.
Parliament's Police Portfolio Committee Chairperson Ian Cameron is calling for the establishment of an ad hoc commission to investigate allegations of criminality in the police service. This comes after allegations by the KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, that Police Minister Senzo Mchunu is affiliated to persons linked to criminal activities. He also accused some senior police officials of being involved in corruption. Cameron says a range of interventions should be implemented, like vetting and lifestyle audits, as well as establishing an ad hoc committee.
The first one is an appointment of some kind of an ad hoc inquiry or commission with a clear timeline to urgently investigate the allegations. And I must emphasize with this the importance of the dockets that were mentioned yesterday by General Mkhwanazi, that those dockets or the processes regarding them should be frozen until an independent inquiry can be done. I think it is a massive risk to just leave them in the system after what we heard.
A 19-year-old initiate has died in the Sekhukhune district in Limpopo, according to the Traditional Affairs Department. The epileptic initiate was taken to hospital after experiencing health complications. Authorities say Raymond Sekele was taken to hospital where he later died on Sunday. The department says the bereaved family has confirmed the initiate had a history of epilepsy and was on medical treatment when he was taken to the initiation school at Denelton. The department has expressed sadness on the death. The private burial service for former Deputy President David Mabuza will be held in Barberton, Mpumalanga on Saturday. The official state funeral will take place at Hoërskool Bergvlam in Mbombela. President Cyril Ramaphosa has declared a mourning period and accorded Mabuza a state funeral category 2. Mabuza family spokesperson Desmond Muela.
The funeral will take place in Nelspruit, Bergvlam. That's where the funeral service will take place, and then immediately after the official service, which has been declared by the presidency or the government of the Republic of South Africa, the family will therefore be afforded an opportunity to have their private service as a private service immediately after the official service.
And finally, the South African Revenue Service officially kicked off the 2025 tax filing season yesterday. Provisional and non-provisional taxpayers have started receiving notifications for automatic assessment. The auto assessment is targeted at taxpayers with one or more sources of income from formal and other forms of employment and uncomplicated tax affairs. SARS Commissioner Edward Kieswetter says 5.5 million taxpayers have been identified for automatic tax assessment.
We will release auto-assessment messages in batches to taxpayers. We generally prioritize refunds because we know how important this is for taxpayers and how important this is for the economy. Many taxpayers are financially distressed and a refund is a very welcome relief. We ask taxpayers not to contact us, to call us, but to go onto our website using the Mobi app or the online query system, or if they have a normal phone, they can use a SMS and or a WhatsApp.
Recapping the top story, President Cyril Ramaphosa has reiterated his view that there should never be vengeance in retribution against BRICS countries, which he says are not competing with any power but only seek the development of humanity as a whole. He was reacting to President Donald Trump's announcement that the US will impose an additional 10% tariff on any countries aligning themselves with the anti-American policies of the BRICS group. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
Here's some breaking news you might have missed. Gordon, a 44-year-old man, switched to Outsurance and now saves an unbelievable 2,794 Rand a month on his 2019 Ford Everest 2-litre automatic. Outsurance clients always get something out. Get a quote today and see how much Outsurance could save you on your car insurance. Call 0800 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. You always get something out. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports headlines, it's cricket action. Vian Mulder's knock etches his name into cricket's Hall of Legends. And we head to tennis action at Wimbledon, where Johannesburg-born Cameron Norrie, he'll take on, well, Novak Djokovic. That's going to be some exciting encounters. But he's also got to look first at getting past Carlos Alcaraz at centre court. Details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. We start in Limpopo with an update on that fatal crash between Musina and Beit Bridge. The road is heavily congested and heavily restricted both directions. If you need to go Musina, Beit Bridge might be a good idea to travel a little bit later once that road has been open and the backlog is cleared. Joburg's N3 running north is heavy. A crash before Buccleuch. Backlog's right deep into Germiston. Don't underestimate that one. That is heavy. Germiston through to Buccleuch this morning. N1 from Beyers Nordia up to Ravonia is pretty heavy, and a crash on the R21 southbound near the airport, causing delays coming from the Tembisa side in towards Kempton Park and in towards the airport. Durban's N2 north from the M7 up through Westwood Mall remains heavily backed up. Cliffdale looks okay. Pietermaritzburg Ashburton on the N3 looks okay as well. And Cape Town, quite a heavy backlog heading out of town towards Somerset West. A crash on the N2 by Spine Road in front of Khayelitsha, pushing a heavy queue back towards the Muway exit. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 8 on this Tuesday. It is great to be in your company. This is the third hour of the Morning Brief, and I'm still taking your calls. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. I'll also take your WhatsApp voice notes if you send them to 061 410 4107. A couple of people already having done that. In fact, let me read a message from Stembiso Kosen Sishiho, who says, our constitution is the best weapon that is formed against us, poor black South Africans in particular. We know it was drafted at the back of a very painful period in history. Its drafters definitely didn't foresee how some people would abuse its generosity. Today, it's not in touch with the plight of the black child of Azania, with a heartbreak emoji there saying, "Cry the beloved country," says Sitembi Sokos in Seshego. Let me read a message from Yazonda in Soweto, who says, Baba Simelane, good morning. There's no good timing and platform to deliver truth, and that truth is stated in all caps from Yazonda, who then goes on to say, we have a mess state because of protocol. What is protocol? We as a nation don't care about protocol. We want truth. So that's from Yazonda in Soweto. And lastly, let me read this one. This person, anonymous in Mtata, saying they want my comment on the message. Basically says, Advocate Defo was the first person to warn us about some SAPS generals working as crime syndicate members in cahoots with drug cartels. What happened after that was the drama of SAPS arresting Advocate Defo in the middle of the courtroom session during the Senzo Meyiwa trial. No one was willing to listen to Advocate Defo except for ridiculing his ways of speaking out in the courtroom. Anonymous in Mtata, I don't know if I have a comment on that because, I don't have the details. I can't remember, to be honest. To be very honest, so much has happened in that trial that I don't remember the specific allegations you are making around what you're saying Advocate Defo said about SAPS generals working with crime syndicates. So without that benefit, I don't really have a useful comment to make to it. But thank you for raising that point. In the next few minutes, my conversation with Minister Barbara Creecy, talking all things to do with the recently delivered budget speech of the department.
They both have a rich history of glory. Amakosi tackle the Porcupine Warriors.
This is as good as it gets.
This is the Toyota Cup.
The game you've been looking forward to on your football calendar.
Giants refuse to fall.
The big game.
The big game. On Saturday, 26 July at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus across the entire African continent and SABC One. Also available on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport in proud partnership with Kaizer Chiefs Football Club.
The Eagles of Carthage and the Phoenix both believe they are the queens of North Africa. Who are the real queens of the North? This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the spectacular battle between Tunisia and Algeria this Thursday, 10 July at 6 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So let's get to that conversation with the Minister of Transport, Barbara Creecy, who recently delivered the budget vote for the department, the department's total budget for 2025-2026 financial year amounting to about 95.7 billion rand with transfers and subsidies to public entities, departmental agencies and provinces and municipalities, set to account for about 88.79% of that particular amount. The Minister joins me now to take the conversation forward. Minister, good morning. I was saying earlier on that you have one of those really complex departments with a web of agencies whose work is crucial in keeping South Africa and the South African economy moving. Tell me about where the bulk of your spending will go and how that will move South Africa and move the economy forward.
Good morning to Thulasizwe and greetings to your listeners. Yes, indeed, transport is a very big ecosystem with 16 entities. As you pointed out in your introduction, a large part of the budget goes to entities, particularly PRASA and SANRAL, as well as to provincial roads departments. So a lot of the money is for road maintenance. It's also to help us this particular year to re-signal PRASA. You know, we have recovered 35 of our 40 priority lines. And now, in order that we can have trains running frequently, we need to repair the signaling so that commuters can get to work cheaply and on time.
Yeah. And then in terms of so that's on the side of rail, but there's also, that's passenger rail, but there's also the element that has to do with freight rail. And we saw what happens when that is not firing on all cylinders. It directly impacts our economy. Tell me about the work that will go into improving efficiencies around the freight rail component of Transnet.
Yes, this budget doesn't have a major allocation to Transnet. There is some money for the manganese and auto corridors to the port of Ngqura and Port Elizabeth from Gauteng. But the main money that would come to Transnet, we hope, is money from the budget facility for infrastructure that would really help us to repair the Transnet priority freight lines. What we know is that there are delays on those lines. Those delays are caused by the condition of the lines as well as lack of signaling and cabling. And of course, as you point out, these delays have a disastrous effect on our economy and on the ability of particularly the mining sector and the agricultural sector to get their goods to market on time.
Are you satisfied, though, that the governance issues that plagued Transnet, that then linked up with the inefficiencies, that those have largely been resolved?
Look, I think that the current management of Transnet are working extremely hard. And what we've seen is that since I took over, we've seen a situation where the war room there has improved the amount of freight that's carried by 9 million tons per annum. We've also seen a situation where there have been improvements in the loading and unloading of ships. And of course, we know that Transnet has procured new equipment for our port terminals, which they're busy commissioning. So I think that there definitely are improvements in the way in which the organization is working. But we also recognize that across the world there is the introduction of third-party participants on the rail network. That is something that we are introducing in Transnet so that there needs to be greater efficiency while the network remains in the ownership of the state and the South African people as a whole.
And as far as I understand, that's set to have major moves, that private sector participation program, and that's coming up, in the next few weeks?
Yes, there are two aspects to this. The first aspect is third-party participation in the actual movement of freight using the Transnet network. In January, we issued the first iteration of the network statement, and that's what I call the menu and the price for third-party operators who want to operate on the 5 priority lines. We're expecting Transnet this year to announce the priority participants in this process. But we are also later this year going to move towards Transnet issuing requests for proposals from the private sector for investment in the Transnet infrastructure. You know, since the 1970s, there hasn't been any major refurbishment of Transnet's infrastructure. We haven't built new lines. And across the world, we're seeing a return to rail as a cheap and effective means of transportation. And it's very important that we modernize Transnet so that we are also part of that important movement.
So two quick issues, Minister, if you don't mind. Let me ask you about the goings on at the Road Accident Fund. We've seen lots of concern, particularly from the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, the Transport Portfolio Committee, to the extent of calling for a full-on investigation. What's going on there? How are we going to get over the current governance issues, including the critical role of the CEO?
Thulasizwe, let me say at the outset that myself and the Deputy Minister are very concerned about the government's issues at the Road Accident Fund, and we're currently engaged in a process around that, which the outcomes of which we hope to make public in the not-too-distant future. Obviously, the primary concern is that the fund is not paying victims of road accidents on time. And we are inundated with pleas from members of the public to speed up the payments. So that issue is a matter which urgently requires attention. We also understand that there is a longer-term issue with regard to the Road Accident Fund that requires new legislation. And that really relates to the fact that as a citizen, if you want to claim from the fund, there's currently a process that is linked to what we call fault in the road accident. We want to bring in a no-fault system so that as a citizen, you don't have to prove that it wasn't your fault. You just have to prove that you were injured in a road accident. We also want to introduce a defined schedule of benefits. So whether you are rich or poor, whether you can afford a lawyer or not, citizens will be equally compensated. We think that's very important if one is dealing with a fund that is funded from public money, that there needs to be equal access and equal compensation.
And then lastly, as I go through the various line items on your budget, I see a lot that is dedicated to the taxi industry. So there's a line item that talks about taxi empowerment projects, 109 million rand, I think it is. Then there's taxi recapitalization, 358 million rand. Then I see also South African National Taxi Council. Talk to me about those, because there's always been this criticism that says the industry gets no subsidies from government despite moving the bulk of South Africans. But also recently the controversy around you planning to pay some 408 million rand in COVID grants, despite the fact that we've long moved from the core period of COVID.
Let me say at the outset that the taxi industry is a crucial part of our public transport system, and as you say, they move 85% of commuters currently. Even when we re-establish rail as the backbone of the transport system for the movement of people and goods, taxis will have a very important role to play in what we call last mile transportation. One of the major issues that impacts on taxi operators is the cost of recapitalization of vehicles. And this is because the industry is regarded by the financial sector as being high risk. We are doing work with taxi manufacturers at the moment and the banks to look at ways in which we can de-risk the loan financing so that operators are able to afford new vehicles and still make a decent living. We are also working closely with the industry to formalize the industry and to ensure that the industry takes responsibility for making sure that some of the shall I say, non-normal commercial practices that go on in the industry are eliminated. And in this regard, I really want to thank the president of Santaco for the work he did recently in resolving the dispute in the Western Cape. I think that's the way we need to be addressing disputes going forward.
All right, Minister Afgora, thank you for your time. That's Minister Barbara Creecy, Minister of Transport, talking about her department's budget vote for 2025-2026.
The Twiga Stars want to impress the Tanzanians with maximum points, while Banyana won nothing but a win as a reminder that they are the continental champions. This is the Group C clash of the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the glittering clash between Tanzania and South Africa on Friday 11 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and S3. Also available on SABC radio stations at 9 p.m. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Big stories of the day. #The Morning Brief.
Let's talk now to the Director General in the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. We're talking in the context of, the recent G20 Women Empowerment Working Group, where the minister in that department, Thulasizwe Simelane, delivered a call to dismantle entrenched structural barriers that continue to marginalize women. We'll talk to some of the elements that came through because they do make for fascinating conversation. Advocate Joyce Mikateko Maluleke, good morning to you and thank you for joining us. So we're talking about systemic change, but there are elements that the minister was talking to directly. Talk to me about the financial inclusion aspect of things. What exactly is the message from the minister and how do we begin to deal with that aspect?
Good morning to you and good morning to the listeners. Maybe before I say what the minister said, let me just give you the dictionary definition of financial inclusion. So it will help many people to understand what is it that we are focusing on and where we come in. The definition says financial inclusion means that individuals and businesses have access to and use appropriate, affordable, and sustainable financial products and services. This includes access to banking services like saving accounts, credits, insurance, and payment systems, enabling them to participate fully in the economy. It says financial inclusion is not just about access, but also about the responsible and sustainable delivery of services to people. As you know, in South Africa, we always say many black people are involved in stokvels and all those things. And it is said that they contribute 54 billion to the financial system. However, those people, most of them can't access, if not all of them, can't access the loans. It would be business that will be able to borrow the money they've invested there and pay back at lesser interest than what one of those people who banked the money would get. If you go and ask for loans, they will give you at the highest rate. So that's exactly what we're saying. It's even worse if you are a woman, and the requirements of the if you want a loan, you must have what do they call it?
Some kind of capital,
capital or whatever, of which many people don't have. So financial inclusion, what we're looking at is to ensure that the banks create facilities that would allow everyone to be able to access the loan. Yes, I know there are risks. There are still risks with companies. There are risks with all the people that are borrowing money from the banks, but the banks still borrow them.
But there can be, in other words, a conscientious move to ensure that women's financial inclusion is catered for in the policies and practices of the banks.
Yes, that's exactly what we are saying. Women must be able to borrow like everybody else.
All right. Let's talk to the other element, which I found fascinating, what you call the care economy. Say a bit more about that. Is it about the lack of accounting for the roles that women fulfill in society outside of the recognized economic sectors? And how do you propose a national care economy policy will bring that to account in terms of our books of account?
First thing that we need to know is that the care economy is the engine, is the unseen engine of the economy of South Africa. If the people who are caring for those that are at home were not doing that, those that are employed, many of those that are employed would not be employed because they would have to stay at home. But government benefits from the economy of that system. So a care economy says address both paid and unpaid care work. And we are saying government should subsidize. I know that South African government is already subsidizing some of the creches that are established in the townships and all over, but it is not at the level where it's supposed to be. Government must make sure that there are enough old age homes so that somebody who works part-time instead of working full-time because they have to knock off early to go and look at their grandfather or their mother who is sick or whatever, must be able to place their parent or loved one at a place where they know that they are safe, they are looked at, not the incident that we had in Gauteng that I don't want to refer to, because it does impact on those that most of, for example, women, because it's most of women and girls who would be the ones that are giving unpaid care work. So we're looking at both paid and unpaid care work.
All right. Thank you for your insights. Let's leave it there for this morning. That is the Director General in the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Advocate Joyce Mikateko Maluleke. Let's go straight to N. Musa. N, good morning to you. I understand you are feeling as cold as I am this morning in your studio.
Yeah.
Obi.
Sure.
Obi pa.
Yeah. Good morning. In the headlines, Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi says he will act in due time on recommendations contained in a report on medical aid schemes. ANC Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula says the party expects Police Minister Senzo Mchunu to explain himself before his organisation following damning allegations against high-ranking police officials as well as Mchunu. And President Cyril Ramaphosa has reiterated his view that there should never be vengeance and retribution against BRICS countries, which he says are not competing with any power, but only seek the development of humanity as a whole. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Still very heavy traffic between Masuna and Byte Bridge into this fatal crash that happened early hours this morning involving a truck, a bus and a vehicle. The road, I believe, may have some capacity to flow, but there's some really big, heavy backlogs both ways, just north of Masuna into that particular scene. Just south of Polokwane is a bit of a bottleneck going on the N1 South as well as you head towards the ranch area. Gauteng, well, the earlier crash on the N3 North after Marlborough Drive has been cleared, but it's been replaced straight away by another one around London Road. So net result stays heavy coming through Bedfordview via Galilee's passing Edenvale up towards the Alex area. The Mike Weiner crash heading into Greyston Drive, so coming off the N1 Buccleuch down through Woodmead into Sandton is pretty heavily backed up, and still a lot of pressure through the Crown. Mike 1 North and M2 westbound into the Crown, very heavy. Durban, this time yesterday, the M2 North was easing, but not today. It stays really busy. There's a crash on the southbound side before Spaghetti Junction, so motorists going north having a look at that. Heavy both ways between Spaghetti Junction and Umgena Road, and Cape Town pretty slow inbound on the N1 between Kubo Get a Change and the city centre area, and a crash on the N2 out of town at Spine Road holding traffic passing Khayelitsha. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to you. Are you wearing a coat?
The coat of arms. That's
you should snap a picture and share so that people can see this fashion show that we've been raving about. But nevertheless, let's talk cricket. Tell me about Vian Mulder. Already yesterday we were talking about, him writing his name into the history books. He's taken it a stretch further.
Oh, yeah, Thulas. He made sure now that his name is now written in ink, not just in pencil. That's Vian Mulder for you. And let's not forget, Coach Shukri Conrad, he backed him at number 3, also giving him the armband. What a decision that was for, the likes of Vian Mulder. And there he is. He's definitely gone up and put himself into the history books. He's showcased to Coach Conrad that his dominant display in Bulawayo, that unbeaten 367, the highest ever test score by a South African before declaring his side's innings. And that was with an impressive 49 fours and 4 sixes in just 297 balls. He surpassed legends like Hashim Amla as well as Matthew Hayden. And let's hear about how Coach Shukri Conrad had belief in promoting Vian Mulder to the number 3 batting spot.
I mean, Shooks has backed me for many years from academy days, so I do think it's freed me up a little bit to go and play and not worry too much about surviving and, you know, making every run count, but more being able to express myself and play with freedom. So yeah, it's played a massive role, and I think the important thing is I feel like I deserve a position in the team, or rather I contribute positively with the bat and ball and catching in slips. So overall, I think my role brings a lot of balance to the team. So I think all of those things contribute to freeing myself up and just being able to play at the best of my ability.
And another celebration for South Africa flying the flag high in Morocco is Banyana Banyana with their 2-0 win over Ghana, setting the tone for their Women's Africa Cup of Nations. That's their title defense. Elsewhere, AC Milan coach Massimiliano Allegri says that the Croatia captain Luka Modric will join the Italian club from Real Madrid after the Club World Cup. Now, Modric turns 40 in September. He joined Madrid from Tottenham in 2012 and has been linked with a move to Italy since early June. We also got Madrid playing Paris Saint-Germain. That's in the semi-finals of the Club World Cup tomorrow. The final will be on the 13th of July. And finally, Wimbledon action. Johannesburg-born Cameron Norrie is the last British man standing at Wimbledon, charging into the quarterfinals after a 5-set win over Nicolas Yarry 6-3, 7-6, 6-7, 6-7, 6-3. The 29-year-old left-hander had plenty in his pocket. He'll now take on the reigning champion Carlos Alcaraz next. And also some other results. The number 2 Flavio Cabelli of Italy also through to his major quarterfinal. He took down the 2-time runner-up Marin Cilic, and Switzerland's Belinda Bencic reaching the first ever Wimbledon quarterfinal, beating the 18-seed Ekaterina Alexandrova. And finally, cycling, Tim Merlier pipped Jonathan Milan on the line in a sprint finish to win a crash-marred Stage 3 of the Tour de France. And that's your wrap. We'll cycle back. That's with John Herricker around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Hey, Ndaulen, good morning to you once again. Let's start with media and entertainment. Tell me about what MultiChoice is saying about their product Showmax and its ability to break even.
So the group is saying that it might take years before Showmax is profitable. MultiChoice says the streaming service will continue to incur losses for years as the company invests heavily to scale the business and achieve profitability. Now, despite slower than expected growth, MultiChoice is committed to evolving its streaming platform, leveraging technology from its partnership with NBC Universal. Now, MultiChoice's chair, Elias Masilela, further noted that building a successful streaming platform can take up to 7 years to become profitable. This approach, of course, is not new, as companies like Amazon and Netflix have also invested heavily in their platforms, operating at a loss for years before achieving profitability. Now, MultiChoice has already invested substantial funds in Showmax, including $144 million in equity funding from both the company and NBC, as well as additional funding to cover specific shareholder costs. Despite the anticipated negative impact on the group's profitability, MultiChoice remains committed to growing Showmax.
Yeah, I suppose it also comes down to what content is on those platforms, right? So you want the eyeballs that will draw in the sales in terms of revenue. Talk to me about PHP. Who is PHP? And tell me about them delivering growth in their half-year earnings.
So PHP, a really interesting group. They are a property company listed on the JSE, mainly operating in the UK and Ireland. It's a UK real investment trust specializing in investing in healthcare premises. So they have partnerships with the UK's health department as they supply the buildings or facilities, some of the hospitals, basically. They own those facilities and they have contracts with the UK's Department of Health. The property player delivered an upbeat performance over the interim period. Its net rental income increased by 3%, and that was driven by rental growth and valuation gains. PHP's profit surged to £59.4 million, up from £3.6 million. And the company's CEO, Mark Davies, highlighted PHP's optimistic outlook, citing a key inflection point in the property cycle with stabilizing yields at 5.25%. Davies also welcomed the UK's 10-year health plan, emphasizing PHP's strength in modern primary care facilities and partnerships with the National Health Service. Now, PHP's portfolio comprises 517 assets valued at £2.8 billion, including its Irish portfolio of 22 properties. PHP recently outbid KKR and Stone Peak Partners to acquire Assura for £1.79 billion. The group says this will be a great addition to its operations, and it expects it to enhance its scale, income, and valuation growth potential. Additionally, PHP is discussing a joint venture with Assura, expected to include a private hospital portfolio.
What kind of a day can we expect in the markets today in Dowling?
The local market's likely to take a knock today. This in line with the local currency, which is trending weaker at 17.80 to the dollar. Now, the downbeat sentiment comes after President Trump hit SA with tariffs worth 30%. Not much company news, so traders will be focusing on those trade developments. U.S. investors also eyeing those moves and awaiting the Fed minutes and looking at futures pretty choppy, not much action playing out there. Lastly, in Asia, investors seem to be shrugging off the latest tariffs announcement, seemingly holding on to hopes that other countries will seal trade deals soon. And with that, markets on that front are on track to close in the green.
Do you consider yourself a promise keeper?
Yes, I do.
Really?
I do.
This is interesting. Do you realize that it's been more than 300 days since you promised me at our very first meeting that occasionally you will come into studio and do your work in studio?
Yes, I am going to come into studio on Friday. I promise.
We should be feeling cold together here in this studio today.
I was going to come to studio last Friday, but you.
Icon. All right, let's see. We'll believe it when we see you deliver on that promise. That's Ntawuleng Lechela. She's kept you updated on everything to do with business, economics, and the markets over the last 2.5 hours.
We've upgraded. Our new GIS-linked national address database lets us connect with you better than ever before. By visualizing licensed and unlicensed households nationwide, we can ensure timely communication. Our payment reminders are a crucial tool to help you stay compliant and avoid penalties, empowering you to take proactive steps. Efficient electronic communication helps us collect fees seamlessly, bolstering the SABC's mandate in line with Section 27 of the Broadcasting Act. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Congolese have a huge mission to silence the hosts. But the Atlas Lionesses are not shaken. They are confident they will keep the people of Morocco happy. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the exciting contest between Democratic Republic of Congo and Morocco this Wednesday, 9 July at 8:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3 and SABC Sport on TTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
All right, so before we go, let's tell you this story out of the education sector. Despite growing global demand for digital skills, the Department of Basic Education has confirmed that coding and robotics will not be made compulsory in the country's schools in the near future. The department's updated annual performance plan for 2025-2026 stresses that current education priorities lie in strengthening literacy and numeracy in the early stages, in the early grades, given the foundational learning crisis that the country is facing. Let's get the perspective of Professor Mary Metcalf, who is Professor of Practice at the University of Johannesburg. Prof, good morning and thank you for your time this morning. Sensible choice that is being made at this particular point?
Hi, Thulasizwe. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me, Prof?
I can hear you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I was asking, is this a sensible choice that is being made at this point by the department to prioritize where the crisis really is raging, numeracy and literacy in the foundational phases, as opposed to going after coding and robotics?
It is an absolutely sensible and necessary decision. We have to prioritize the acquisition of fundamental reading skills and math skills right from the foundation phase. There's many reasons for that, and I'm going to let you ask me about pursuing that in terms of the sequence of questions.
Mm-hmm.
But it also, we have to understand that you need, in fact, to be able to read, to be able to fulfill the expectations of the coding and robotics curriculum. And I think that the delay will enable the department to rethink when it should be introduced, how it should be reintroduced, what resources are necessary, and also to adjust to the reality that the field of coding, of robotics, of AI is changing all of the time. And we need to develop core skills that will survive those changes.
But couldn't the two be pursued at the same time, Prof? The improvement in the numeracy and literacy at the foundational phases, but at the same time grappling with the reality that coding and robotics is part of the new digital skills of the new economy.
They could be pursued at the right time, but we have to look at what we would need to sacrifice. If we are going to be further crowding the curriculum in the foundation phase, it means there would be less time for learners to acquire the fundamental understanding of sound symbol relationships, of the purpose of reading, the joy of reading, the fundamentals in relation to understanding arithmetic. Now, why are we worried about that? It's because, firstly, in international assessments, we are not achieving anywhere near what the goals are in our National Development Plan. And in fact, we are, in some respects, possibly, according to the results of the regional the Southern African and East African comparisons, doing worse, but we certainly are not improving. But in our own South African systemic evaluation, we are able to confirm that young learners in grades 1, 2, and 3 are not performing anywhere near the level that is required, not only in the NDP, but the level that is required to make the transition. Now, why do I emphasize that transition? In South Africa, we've got the foundation phase from grade R to grade 3. The emphasis there is on 3 subjects. Literacy, the first language, learning and being introduced to a second language, the first additional language, and then maths and life skills. That's 4 subjects. Not all adequately resourced. At the end of grade 3, when learners transition to grade 4, there's new subjects added, and there's the introduction of textbooks which learners will be able to learn under the guidance first
Prof.
go home and go and read.
Yeah, Prof. Unfortunately, I think your line is deteriorating, so I think let's leave it there. But I think we got quite a bit, from that conversation with Professor Mary Metcalf, who is Professor of Practice at the University of Johannesburg. Sadly, the line's starting to let us down there. We were catching one or two words, but, for the bulk of the conversation, we were able to hear her insights.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. Just a reminder about the heaviness on Joburg's N3 today. A series of crashes, one just after Marlborough Drive backed everything up, and then another by London Road. Most of it all clearing out now. The worst of the traffic is Edenvale up to Alex, and then from Limbro Park, it gets heavy again as you line up into Maclue. Looks like an issue around Allendale this morning on the M1 North, which has traffic on the N3 North, the N1 North backed up into Maclue for turnings up to Midrand. There's a queue of traffic on the Airport Highway, the R24, between the Edenvale exit and Barbara Road. That is airport bound. And if you're airport bound on the R21, crashing by 4 Tracker Road's been there a while this morning. Traffic quite heavy as you line up from the R23 Benoni exit, so coming from Tembisa side, that's all badly backed up. Still a lot of pressure around the Crown interchange. The Mike 1 from Boysons through to Carr Street. The M2 behind that, very slow going into the Crown interchange area as well. Reminder of the truck and bus and vehicle collision just north of Musina up to Beitbridge. That's likely to be an issue in terms of delays for some time this morning. Durban, Spaghetti Junction, Umgeda Road, all cleared up. The backlog going north into the roadworks and the backlog south into the collision, all now out of the way. Cape Town, there's a bit of pressure on the N1 inbound from Marine Drive over the elevated freeway into the city centre, and a crash on the N2 out of town at Meway in front of Khayelitsha. Basically cleared. That backlog starting to move through. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The Copper Queens are not willing to settle for anything less than a win. But the Teranga Lionesses believe they have everything under control to roar with victory to the referee's final whistle. This is the Total Energies Women's Africa Cup of Nations Morocco 2024. Catch the thrilling action between the West and the South. Zambia versus Senegal this Wednesday, 9 July at 5:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Where Africa competes, South Africa connects. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Let's go straight to it then. Let me take some of your voice notes, many of them responding to what you heard earlier on, someone raising a point about this, about that. Earlier on, we spoke to Kabelo Kwamanda, Councillor Kabelo Kwamanda of the city of Johannesburg, and the calls that he's making around investigations into Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibiya. Let me hear what this person has to say about that.
Hi, Thulasizwe. I just want to reiterate on Kabelo's comment on General Mkwanazi to follow protocol. Yes, he's quite right. He should have followed protocol. But the protocol in this case is the same people that he was reporting. So this is the protocol. Now, how could you report the protocol to the protocol? That's why now the protocol that he is approaching is the highest protocol, the public of the South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I think the team, our producers got it wrong there. They got confused between the Kabelos. You are talking about the Kabelo in Malutia Pofung, who was talking about following protocols. But nevertheless, thank you. No harm done. Thank you for that. So I like how you're using the word protocol, that he's now following a completely different protocol. And a lot of people have actually been debating that question of whether or not, this was appropriate to come out in the public as opposed to raising it through a parliamentary process, public protector, writing to the president, etc., etc. Someone else wants to respond to the challenge that was put out to me, and I didn't meet the challenge. That said, I must comment about what Advocate Malisela Tifo had to say about SAPS generals working with criminal syndicates. So someone has taken up that mantle.
Good morning, SAFM listeners. Thulasizwe, yes, some of us, we do remember vividly so on the matter of the police when Advocate Tefo was speaking. Indeed, he speaks truth to power. And now we can see how corrupt the SAPS is. So some of us, we do remember, and we're ridiculing the guy, and we regret.
Sure.
And we are saying, sorry, Advocate Tefo, sorry, you are talking the truth. Duelo in Kimberley.
Thank you for that. Doesn't this underscore the urgency with which these allegations need to be attended to, right? I mean, if it's already chipping away, as you heard there, at the credibility and trust in the SAPS, I don't think the president has much time, really. There's not much time to be applying your mind. It may be that you follow what appears to be direct and clear lines that can get you to the truth as soon as possible, to a resolution as soon as possible. Someone wants to comment about the issue of driver's licenses. Is it about the proposed extension of their validity from 5 years to 8 years, or, you know, that whole crisis and debacle around the machine that keeps breaking down?
Good morning, showing you from a freezing Centurion with the mysterious and flows. Haven't we heard it already before with all the other corruption allegations against everybody in the government? What was new that President Cyril Ramaphosa actually said to us? Maybe I'm missing something. But I think the people are getting tired of it. So anyway, have a fantastic day.
Yeah, all right. Thank you for that. I think I played a completely wrong voice note. The one I wanted, but that's fine. It's right. Before I offend you, I'm not saying it's wrong. What's wrong is the sequence in which I wanted to play it. Let me just be absolutely clear. There is no wrong voice note. All the views are valid, and the issue you are raising is absolutely valid. Before I go to the calls, let me take this one very quickly about driver's licenses.
Good morning, Magocho. I hope that since they're saying they're proposing an 8-year period for the driver's license, I think they will extend for the PDP also, as like us truck drivers who are suffering also. So I think they should give us a year. I think they should give us a year. Thank you. This is the tracker.
Yeah. All right. No, thank you for that, Sipo. An interesting take there. An industry that not many of us focus on, but a lot of people actually get their PDP so that they're able to drive, if not necessarily trucks, but they're able to drive larger vehicles and carry more passengers. And I wonder how that system works and how that would fit in with any changes in terms of the validity of the basic driver's license. Let me speak to Borders in Bizana. Good morning to you. You want to talk to me about road quality in this country. Is this in the context of the conversation with the minister earlier on?
Absolutely, Thulas. Thulas, Mkhuleka once said he's going to tour around the Alfred Nzo area in connection with the inspection of the roads here. The state of the roads here are very, very in a bad state, you know. Some of the roads here, they have gullies through which water flows into our houses.
Sure.
Especially the D roads.
Yes.
Please, they must just come around. You know what? What is bad even here? You don't even get the Department of Transport offices. You look around, no office whatsoever. What you are going to refer your matter to? No. The area where I am, the road, these service buses from the government are not even using them now.
Yeah.
Please, Mkhuleko must just tour around and his minister. They must get into the Alfredo area. The state of the roads is so bad here.
Yeah.
Nothing is ever taking place about the blading, doing something better for us in these roads.
Yeah.
Please.
Borders, thank you for that. Hopefully someone is listening and will take your plea quite seriously, because the state of the roads in the Eastern Cape is not the first time that point has been raised. It does contribute to the difficulty. We always talk in weather about difficulty in navigation. This is difficulty in navigation, not at sea this time, but on the roads, right? When people just have those really poor quality roads. So hopefully that call is heeded to pay attention to those roads. Vuyo in Gqeberha, good morning. You want to talk about the SAPS and Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi?
Yes, good morning. You are correct, Budi. Morning to everyone who's listening to your program. My plea to you to help us all in South Africa
is
to, one, if we can be able to have got a person like Mr. Mkhwanazi, who can form a team that will assist South Africans to start vetting all the leaders, start from the president to the councillor, to the ward councillor. Check their lifestyle, check what they have, because most of them, when they get into positions, they come with the bicycles or the chairs or whatever. When they come out, they drive Rolls-Royce, Mercedes-Benz, got businesses, and we as voters, we don't have got power to vet them. But we trust Mkhwanazi now, all of us in South Africa, that he can be able to help South Africa to have the proper leaders who know their story. If they come to serve the public or the community of South Africa, they must be honest. And now the problem that we have, we don't know their backgrounds.
Sure.
That's why I'm saying it has to start from the president.
Yeah.
We must check the president himself, his lifestyle, and he must be audited. We must check, he must be vetted up to the ward councillor. Mayor, you're talking about MM, you're talking about the ministers, you're talking about the deputy ministers. We need to know exactly what did they have when they started to come into the office.
So you're not satisfied. You're not satisfied with the current lifestyle audit processes. You're saying that it needs to be buttressed by the efforts of people such as Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. So you see a role for him in that.
Please, because you know what? People that are being, all these commissions that are coming in and out, we don't know who choose them. They choose their friends. We'll never know the truth. But we have seen now Mkhwanazi that he knows what he's doing.
Right.
And he likes South Africa.
All right.
We are tired of these people who are doing things just to fed themselves.
All right, for your
Please, that's why I said I'm wishing all South Africans to be listening and promote this.
All right.
We need a person such like his caliber.
I've got to go. Thank you for that. That's Vuyo in Kabeja there, ending us off on that note. Thank you for listening. This has been the Tuesday edition of the Morning Brief. Let's go straight to N Musa with the latest news. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane, and you've been briefed.
In our top stories, Motsoaledi to act on report into medical aid schemes discrimination, and Ramaphosa warns against targeting BRICS countries. Good morning. Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi says he will act in due time on recommendations contained in a report on medical aid schemes. The Section 59 investigation panel into allegations of racial discrimination by medical aid schemes against black healthcare providers concluded that the right of procedural fairness of some individual practitioners were violated. Motsoaledi has confirmed that Discovery, GEMS and Med scheme are